Organic Farm at the Eases Centre in County Donegal. From 11am, enjoy sheep clipping, dog trial demonstrations, kids games, live music, garden goodies and tasty cafe treats. A free day for all the family. Come celebrate community, nature and good food together. Don't miss our new polytunnel. That's our big open day at White Oaks Organic Farm at the Eases Centre, F93 F104. See you there.
Are you calling me a liar?
No, that's not.
I'm telling you, this isn't what I ordered. Don't give me that look, you little...
Work-related violence and aggression, it's not just part of the job. As an employer, it's your responsibility to protect workers. For guidance and to learn more about your duties, visit hsa.ie.
Greg, have a busy, good show on a Friday.
Yes, it's a busy one, isn't it? Because we've lots going on, hence busy.
busy. I better go then let you be busy.
Right then. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right, keep the race in its place, Gooch. All right, it is the 9 till noon show. It's 9:09. Let's get a news update. And it's over to Donald Kavanagh. Good morning to you, Donald.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A temporary restricted airspace notice has been implemented for the Donegal Rally. The notice prohibits the use of helicopters and drones across various stages of the rally from today until Sunday. The no-fly and no-drone zones include Mamore Gap, Cool Cross, Carndonagh, Malin Head, Lough High Glen, Garrygort, Letterkenny, Knockalla, Atlantic Drive, Fanet Head and Carnhill. Enda Walsh of the Irish Aviation Authority says it's an important safety measure.
We've a number of no-fly zones in order to safeguard both the spectators and the competitors in the international rally that's taking place this weekend. So we'd encourage all aviators, be that for manned helicopters or light aircraft or indeed unmanned, which are drones, to make sure they're aware of that. We have a website notice on our website, ia.ie. We have no stairmen in effect, and we've also promoted on our socials as well. So you can check that out, see where those restrictions are, because they do change day to day, and make sure you don't enter that airspace during those times.
And a link to those maps and more details can be found on our website, highlandradio.com. Meanwhile, a number of cars have been seized in Letterkenny and Ballyshannon as Gardaí step up a campaign targeting unsafe and untaxed vehicles. A significant Garda operation is underway across Donegal with over 100 extra Gardaí drafted into the county, along with extra Garda cars and motorbikes. Former Taoiseach Leo Varadkar says he would forego 2 years of economic growth for the unification of Ireland. The former Taoiseach made the comments during an interview with BBC Northern Ireland's Red Lines podcast. Last year, a report by the Institute of International and European Affairs found unification would cost €20 billion every 20 years. However, Leo Varadkar says any short-term impact on the economy would be worth it in the long run.
Let's just say it even is 5% of GDP. That's about 2 years economic growth. Would I be willing to forgo 2 years of economic growth for the unification of my island? I would. I think that we'll be able to convince people south of the border that unification is in their interests too. I think a united island economy will be a stronger economy.
The Social Democrats Enterprise spokesperson says no further delay should be countenanced on the implementation of alcohol warning labels. The call comes despite concerns over the potential impact of US trade tariffs on the drinks industry. The introduction of mandatory alcohol warning labels is due to come into effect in May next year, and Deputy Sinead Gibney says it needs to go ahead without delay.
I really think that there is an overemphasis on the cost when actually what businesses want is certainty. And the certainty is that as of May next year, they have to have this labelling on their products. To now suggest that this is going to be paused, delayed, reconsidered, reassessed, I don't believe that these issues are connected.
Weather forecast from Met Éireann, warm and sunny with good spells of sunshine. Top temperatures 25 to 29 degrees Celsius today. Light southeasterly breezes. Tonight, mostly dry and clear. Some isolated showers possible in lowest overnight temperatures of 14 to 18. Mostly warm again tomorrow, Saturday, with bright sunny spells. However, scattered showers may develop, some of them possibly heavy and thundery. Top temperatures tomorrow 19 to 24 degrees Celsius. That's Highland Radio News. Check all the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
It's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning, and you're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. Our last show of the week, and always Friday, is a busy one. Our Friday panel going to join us very shortly, talking through some of the big stories of the day. and the week, of course. We very much want you involved in that conversation. The lines are open for you right now to be involved. 086 60 25,000. That's your WhatsApp and text number. You can also give us a call on 07491 25,000 or email comments@highlandradio.com. The Donegal International Rally gets underway in earnest today. Oisín Kelly's going to be out and about with the team, of course. He'll join us a little later on in the show to look forward to today's action and indeed give us some updates on that action. That and so much more besides. And if you want to watch the show, of course, you can use your smart TV, your Fire Stick. Watch us on the YouTube app. Just type in Highland Radio Ireland, and we're on Facebook and on the X platform as well. So there you go. Right, let's say good morning first to Michael White, Chair of the Green Party in Donegal. Michael, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Or very well, Greg. Good morning.
Okay, I feel like I haven't chatted to you ages. Good to have you back on the show. Breed Corrin, solicitor, thank you for joining us. Good morning to you.
Morning.
It's great to have you back.
Nice to be back with you.
Independent Senator Eileen Flynn's with us. Hi, Eileen. How are you keeping?
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Michael and Breach, and to the rest of your listeners as well.
Thanks so much for joining us. Okay, we learnt yesterday that Ireland is the second most expensive country in the European Union for typical goods and services. Prices here are 38% above the EU average. We're only behind Denmark when it comes to high prices. Michael, I'll start with you. The government has ruled out any further universal payments, but the cost of living crisis is not getting any better. We're also going to see petrol and diesel prices go up, not just for this weekend, but across the board, I imagine as the year wears on. You know, we know we pay very high rates for electricity as well in this country, and it's gotten worse. We've always been there or thereabouts in terms of the most expensive countries to live in, and as I say, things have disimproved over the last wee while. Well, I mean, do you have any insight as to why that is, and what perhaps maybe should the government be doing to help those who are struggling?
Well, a few things. I think there's a general perception in the media recently that things are kind of back under control, that inflation has dropped, but food prices rose by about 25% from 2020 to the end of 2024. So there's a good chunk of the population that hasn't seen any benefits. So headline inflation rates have dropped. A lot of stuff rose in price, and their income didn't jump up correspondingly. So there's a portion of the population that's suffering. So I don't think the universal credits put out, I don't think they should be applied. It should be instead targeted. There's a number of other things to think about it at the moment as well. Because of what's going on in Iran, there's a chance that oil prices could really increase significantly. You have a big shock like we had at the start of when Russia invaded Ukraine. And over and above that, you have the uncertainty around tariffs that could knock out maybe 15-20% of our corporate tax over the coming year. That's kind of a worst case scenario, but there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen next. So that's not to say not to do anything, but we need to be super careful about what we do.
But of course, you talking about sort of the global impacts of the likes of the situation in Ukraine and now what's happening in the Middle East. We do, though, seem more exposed to that in terms of, price increases and then them staying stubbornly high compared to our European neighbours. We have, comparable data and we seem to be far worse affected in this country, and it's not really talked about much, it doesn't seem to me anyway.
Yeah, it looks like we're being screwed over. It's they used to call Ireland the big UK retail chain used to call Ireland Treasure Islands because they were able to basically increase prices here beyond what would be normal in a larger market. We're paying over the odds for a lot of things. There's a need to try and focus on that, to focus on our energy costs. But part of the problem as well is that we import nearly all of our energy is imported as fossil fuels, and we're very exposed to increases in the overall.
Yeah, but it's not just that. I get where you're coming from, but again, it's outside of that. The ESB has talked about the level of investment that's required into the network. They've made, multiples of billions of dollars over the last year, but it's the consumer. Even though the data centers will be using 25% of the power, again, it's the consumer that's going to be asked to put their hands in their pockets to pay for the infrastructural development of the ESB for them to make even more money. Again, it just feels like, this doesn't really seem to happen like this in other countries.
There's definitely a problem during the COVID pandemic and afterwards, prices increased, and those prices weren't always, a lot of the times they weren't related to the costs that the suppliers had. There was just an opportunity to take greater profit. There's a need to address that. But the specific question in this case is, what can we do for a good chunk of the population is not under as much pressure, but there's a part of the population that really is under pressure and hasn't really been addressed all through since COVID. They're still under pressure because of their food bills are a big portion of their budget. Those have gone up, fuel prices have gone up, and they're not being helped. So I think the question at the start was previously that these sort of universal credits to help everybody. And I guess what I'd be saying is no, there shouldn't be a universal credit. It should be really, really focused on the people that need it most. And what you're referring to, though, there's needs to address the wider problem of why are we paying over the odds for so many things.
That I think is easy when you're talking about maybe those who are receiving support or social welfare payments from the government. You can sort of categorise those people, but then there is a large chunk of working poor that I wonder how targeted credits might work for them. I'll come back to you, of course. Breed, Curran, insurance, electricity, food, everything is disproportionately expensive here.
What we're talking about here, Greg, is price gouging, is people who are taking advantage of the fact that inflation has eroded the impact of any increases that have been made, and that is a huge problem. I often find that the Irish are very, very quiet. The French certainly are much more vocal when we're looking abroad. The French and the Spanish and the Italian are much more vocal. It really wasn't until the prices surrounding water prices that the Irish actually started realising that their voice had an impact, and that if they collectively en masse shouted hard enough, then someone in government would listen. The big issue in relation to all of this, of course, is that we're a small island, very, very small market on the periphery of Ireland, on the periphery of Europe. We're almost targeted in a way with regards to housing prices and energy prices. And I agree completely with with Michael that any increases that would be made would need to be targeted. It's a huge bugbear of mine that children's allowance in this country is not means tested. It has been for a long, long time something that I've been shouting about and talking about. The fact that two parents who are on comfortable salaries, very, very well off, maybe 100, 120,000 coming into the house as a unit, are getting exactly the same as those who are on social welfare, or those who are the working poor who are struggling to put food on the table, clothes on their children's backs. That has to be addressed by the government. I think there are some talks, and I'm hoping in the next budget that we'll have a two-tier system whereby any increases, particularly in children's allowance or in carers allowance, would be targeted towards those whose household income doesn't have the same pressure that those who are on social welfare, or those who are the working poor. The working poor are now an increasing mass of voters in this country that the government need to talk to and to engage with, or else they're going to lose that at the next election.
But that being said, we are just out of an election, and the government parties really did quite very well. That is an endorsement.
And we bucked the trend.
Yeah.
We bucked the trend in that regard, in that incumbent governments all over Europe were falling, and there was a slide to the far right. And again, I think it's, the Irish are actually very, very quiet. We're not vocal at all. We don't raise our voices. I don't think we actually value the collective voice that we can have. It was only, as I say, with the Irish water charges that they actually mobilised, and then we seem to have kind of gone back into our boxes again.
And that is a long time ago, Breed. We often reference
Absolutely,
it,
yeah.
but it's so blooming long ago.
No other cause has mobilised us as much as Irish water, and no cause since has mobilised us. And I would hope that maybe the cost of living, that people will actually start talking about this now. I mean, inflation is going to erode any impact that any increases are going to make. Look, at cost of living is still a huge problem. I see that every day of the week in the work that I do, and increasing those universal payments is useful, but it's no use on its own. There has to be a targeted approach that we have to deal with housing, we have to deal with energy prices, and I appreciate that because we're on an island off the edge of Europe, our energy prices are going to be higher. But we need to look at this as a global problem and not simply a short-term relief.
Okay. Well, I mean, one of the that we shouldn't
into it.
forget either, that one of those universal credits was payments directly to electricity companies that are shafting the consumer.
Absolutely.
You know, it was literally paid straight into their bank accounts.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's
while
a
it took the
reward.
pressure off us, the consumer, it didn't do anything to compel those companies to reduce their prices. Another bugbear of mine is the insurance industry in general. The Irish government were told by the insurance industry, if you reduce the cost of claims for personal injuries, we will reduce our premiums. So what did the Irish government do? They rolled over, let the insurance industry tickle their belly and say, absolutely, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the cost of awards. What did the insurance industry do? Absolutely nothing.
Well,
Tell me
prices are
one
going
person
up.
who's had a decrease in their insurance premium since the Injuries Resolution Board or the new guidelines in relation to personal injury. I haven't met one whose insurance premium has been
not off a
reduced.
basic renewal. No, not at all. Senator Eileen Flynn, you know, I mean, obviously through your offices as well, get a lot of representations in this regard. You know, we also have to factor in, we are charged with caring for our youth, and we've seen a dramatic increase in, well in excess of 100,000 now, of children that are living in prolonged poverty, literally food versus other items. Parents are having to make those shouts, right? So it's a sad situation, what's going on.
Yeah, there was a report launched, Greg, last week in Turriarchert in Ballyfermot. Now, Turriarchert has a very small population, and over 400 families has used the food bank. Now, I don't have all the figures in front of me right now, but I know for a fact every 1 in 3 children on this island is living in poverty. You know, and the housing crisis, the cost of living, etc. When we talk about the working poor, you know, you can either work, then not have children because it's the price of a mortgage to have your child still in childcare. It's you know, I know some shops is there than other shops. You go to one local shop, you could be nearly €4 for your butter. You go to another local shop and it's say €3. You know, I think there should be proper caps and the food as well. Like what's the price of butter in one shop should be the price all over. You know, and that's only one example. I know Breed spoke about the child benefit. I can't see that being a two-tier system because that's the rights of a child. Every child in this country is the right to the child benefit. And I don't know how I feel around mean testing that, you know.
The only
because
thing is
something
and
that
it's not to contradict you, but they it did introduce a system, if I'm not mistaken, whereby you had to sign a form to say that you wanted to continue to receive the children's allowance. So does that not sort of blur the issue that it's something every child's entitled to if you can forego it on behalf of your child? I don't know, maybe there's scope there for making it more targeted.
What I'd say, Greg, is I think we need to be very, very careful as legislators and around being part of the two-tier system, especially when it comes to child benefit. You know, again, it's something that every child has a right to, and at a European level as well. I don't see it changing in the next budget because from Europe I don't think it'd be allowed, and rightly so, because for some parents that's like it's for their children at the end of the day. So I haven't really looked into it, but I do agree around the means testing for electricity, the mean testing for like it's not only electricity, it's food, it's gas, it's clothing grants for the winter, bed clothes, etc. Like I do think things are getting worse. for the ordinary working
But
class
Eileen,
person.
there's a lot of ye in between the Shannon and the Dole, and there's only so much anyone can do individually. So this is not an accusation or a criticism against you, because you use your time on certain issues, and that's welcome. But I mean, is it not really the role of all of the Dole and with the support of the Shannon to sort of say, you know, enough is enough here. Let's take on the insurance companies. Let's take on the electricity companies. Let's find out why food prices are sky high. Like we're hamstrung. We can't do anything about it. And yet we've got, you know, hundreds of politicians, and it doesn't seem to be on the top of their agenda across the board. I'm sure individuals have great interest in this. Like, it kind of is a bit of a failure of the whole system, isn't it? Where are the people advocating for us?
It's the same with the housing crisis, Greg. It's very unfortunate. I know for me, and I can only speak on behalf of the civil engagement group in the Shannon, who's made up of myself, Senator Lynn Yuan, Alice Mary Higgins, and Senator Francis Black. You know, we talk about giving the handouts, how the handouts only helps a family maybe for a week or 2 weeks. What do they do after that? Families need more sustainability. Again, one out of every third child in this country is going through poverty. Last week in Cherry Orchard, the amount of the survey that was done talks about young people's health. Our health system is absolutely shattered. I wouldn't even say it's cracked. It's shattered. It needs to be rebuilt. Our housing crisis, we need to stop. You know, this government has an awful lot to deal with, but I don't think the political will is there to deal with it. They don't want to stop child poverty in this country. They don't want to stop homelessness in this country. And most importantly, they don't mind the big businesses and the multinational businesses getting richer in this country. Again, Greg, I don't believe in the handouts. I believe in the hand up and supporting a family all year round, instead of giving to electricity companies to be able to minimise the cost as much as possible for poor people. I will say the universal grant doesn't work for, like, around child benefit. I wouldn't look at a 2-tier system. That's me personally. But on everything else, I'd be saying, you know, we have to give people at the edges of society, the working poor, people on social welfare, more support, really.
All right, I'll be back with more from Eileen, Michael and Breed and you after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Attention golfers! Join us at Dunfanny Golf Club on Friday the 4th of July for a charity golf classic in aid of Ronald McDonald House, a fantastic charity that helps countless Donegal families while their children are required to visit or stay at the Children's Hospital in Dublin. A team of 4 is only €150, which includes food and fantastic prizes on the day. Enjoy the crack while raising money for charity. To book, call Dunfanny Golf Club on 07491 36335 or visit dunfannygolfclub.com.
Ready for sunshine? Fly EasyJet from Belfast International Airport to a range of holiday destinations including Tenerife, Amsterdam, the Algarve, Barcelona and many more, which you can find in Belfast International Airport's summer schedule. Don't miss out, book today with EasyJet. Find your destination inspiration.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up? Fresh colour for your walls? Or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Grab half-price broadband in the Virgin Media Playhouse. For this month only, all our broadband speeds are half price. That's lightning fast connection from just €35 a month, locked in for 12 months with no activation fee. Why wait? Enjoy speeds from 500 megs to 5 gigs right now. All for half price. Available nationwide. See virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Subject to location and availability. New customers only, €35 per month for 12 months for 500 meg broadband. Half price on 12-month broadband contracts only and based on after-offer prices for all speeds. Offer ends 2nd of July. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
If you're looking for a competitive insurance quote, contact Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers in Letterkenny. Home, car or van insurance, farm, commercial or public liability insurance. They compare quotes from all the leading insurers so you get a great price. Call Hickey Clark and Langan on 91 26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
It's 9:25. Now, if you're out and about in the roads, I've been told there's been a 3-car collision on the main road from Kilmacrennan to Letterkenny. People going to Kilmacrennan, I'm told, should avoid the area. We'll bring you any updates on that as soon as I get them. A caller says, remember that people earning a decent salary pay for everything for their children, including third-level education and health, and it's given to mothers. Hi, Greg. As long as they keep increasing wages, costs are going to keep increasing. It's a vicious circle. You don't need to be an economist to realise this. Well, it's chicken and egg. What's chasing what? The European Central Bank did 10 continuous increases on our mortgages, and no one was asking why. These increases lead to many families getting into difficulty and could have led on to losing the home. The reason they did it is that you had less money to suppress inflation. That's why they do it. It's so that you have less money, that you are struggling more, basically. But Breed, before we move on, just a brief comment on, are we very separate in this country in terms of our status, financial status? The well-off, the okay, the poor. You talked about how something that united us and brought us out onto the streets was water, for an example. But if we're okay, do we just forget about the fact that there's over 100,000 kids that are in continuous poverty? Are the people who are in the most deprived areas less likely to vote, for an example, or disenfranchised with a political system? Or something is happening, right, whereby there's so many people in this country I feel aren't actually broadly represented in politics and in policy, if any of that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, and I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's almost like the smug content, and we're here in our nice house with our nice 2.3 children, and we're earning 120,000 a year, and we're not affected at all by the fact that somebody who is living in the same town or the same parish or the same area may be really struggling. And what I was saying about targeting, and I appreciate the children's allowances for the child, but tell me what's fair in a child living in a house with an income of 120,000 a year, going on holidays 3 or 4 times a year. The parents don't even have to spend the children's allowance, because presumably what some of the more well-off do is they save the children's allowance so that there is a lump sum there when the child turns 18. Tell me what's fair with that, and then comparing a family that are really, really struggling to educate their kids, to do their best for their kids, and that their children's allowance is nearly almost spent before they receive it.
I was chatting to someone. I was chatting to someone a year or so back, and this is no criticism of them whatsoever, but there was a form that you get that you sign each year to say that your status hasn't changed and stuff, and the children are still at school, and they forgot to send that back, and they hadn't received children's allowance for 9 months and didn't realise it, and they were cock-a-hoop that they figured it out and got 9 months backdated. Now, as I say, I'm not criticising them, but if you're not missing they didn't even know they hadn't received it.
I do a lot of family law and when you're going through somebody's statement of means and you're looking at what's coming in and what's going out, it's frightening. And sometimes they don't actually, people who would come to me for family law cases in relation to maintenance and access, the children's allowance is absolutely crucial and critical, and they wouldn't be able to survive without it. But then I'm looking at people who, have massive incomes, going 2 and 3 holidays a year. Their child or children may be in private education. They don't even miss the children's allowance. It doesn't even figure in their family budget. And to me, that there's just a basic unfairness in that. And that's why I would like to see the next government talk about a 2-tier system with regards to children's allowance, so that those who don't need the children's allowance to make ends meet would get a reduced sum or wouldn't get it at all.
Yeah, okay. Eileen,
and those who really need it. then would get an increase in that.
Yeah, Eileen, sorry, you wanted to come back in there.
Maybe Breach has done a lot of research on this and how she would look at it as being fair. For me personally, as I said, I think we need to be really, really careful when we create two-tier systems when it comes to
it's almost a constitutional, ethical thing you're coming at it from, really, isn't it?
I get it, Breach. Like even their universal charge for childcare, for social welfare. Like, you know, celebrities are entitled to child benefit for, like, the child is born, you're entitled to your child benefit. I just think if we're going to have a two-tier system, is that really going to give to the poor? Because you're right, there's a big majority of people in this country that may not need the child benefit. But again, is it like the Medicare card? Is it like the two-tier system that we have in the hospital? Do you know what I mean? You go in, you're on a Medicare card. You're having a child, you get treated less than the woman who's paying privately. So we just need to be really, really careful when we talk about the two-tier system. Now again, if it was done right, Greg, I can't actually say right now I'm in favour of it or I'm not in favour of it.
No, I get you, and that's perfectly fine, but we can only speak from our...
my agenda in the last few weeks, and then I would actually say, what harm is it saving for your child to have a better future? We all want our kids to have a better life than what we had. So I'm just,
No, that's a perfectly good position to be in as well. But Michael, like, say for instance, stuff that we could work on. You would have heard this week the rules covering uniform supplies and technologies put in place by many schools are needlessly increasing costs for parents. Again, this is going to affect those that the money is tightest with. The Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, they wrote to schools and sort of just asked them to maybe look at trying to reduce the costs. When we brought this up during the week, someone sent a basket from one school in the east of the county, and you're obliged to get this stuff for your kid, like zip-ups, 38 quid, leggings that are branded 30 quid, you know, and this is for one round of uniforms for one kid going back to school. I've been talking about this for so blooming long. It's so frustrating, Michael. This CCPC, they've just advised schools to use generic uniform items and ensure a competitive process underpins the appointment of any exclusive suppliers for school uniforms, tech devices and software. I covered that story in full knowledge that schools will continue to do what they're doing. Is it time for the government to intervene on matters like this? Because I know again, and sorry to waffle, I know again already families that have begun already putting stuff away before the other school year ends because they know they can't face that bill with everything else coming to the beginning of the school year, Michael. That's a crazy situation, completely avoidable.
Yeah, there's a broader point here, so I'm not going to skip the question about uniforms, but the broader point that's been made of Senator Eileen Flynn made, there's, according to the CSO, there's 500,000 people living at risk of poverty, and there's like 100,000 kids. We're also one of the richest countries in the world. This is ridiculous. And so I was saying that, you know, I don't like a universal intervention should be targeted at people who need. I wasn't talking about means testing. I was saying that we can probably have a pretty good guess of who needs the help. They say that lone parents are the most likely to be at risk of poverty. Lone parents with under the age of 25. We can have a pretty good guess of who needs the help the most and then intervene. We were sitting on 14 billion quid we got from the Apple judgment in Europe, but we had food banks in this country. It's disgraceful. It's really wrong.
We have 15 billion by the end of this year that was never accounted for, an additional 15 billion, because I believe it was 4 or 5 billion initially that our income is greater than we thought it might be, and now there's an additional 7 or 8 billion that's due to come in, and yet we're still being told that we can't touch that because, you know, it might not be around forever.
Yeah, but the Apple 14 billion is definitely ours, and we can do whatever the hell we want with it. The point is, that's a massive amount of money, and that would, at the stroke of a pen, could solve child poverty in Ireland. But that's kind of the point. This country and the politicians need to say that that's what they want. Either Eileen or Breed made the point. Do they really want to fix this problem? So somebody needs to say, we would, and you could do it. You could eradicate childhood poverty in Ireland within one government term if they got their finger out and said that that's the biggest priority. One of the reasons why should it be a priority? It's not just because we're nice people and we think kids should be okay and looked after. In a country like Ireland, our biggest resource are the smart kids that we have. The reason the country's economy has grown so fast is because our children are really well educated now compared to 30 or 40 years ago. Every kid that's at risk of poverty in Ireland, that's impacting their life chances and their education, everything else. That's not just a loss to them, it's a loss to the country. So it benefits us all if we get this sorted out. But somebody has to say this is number one priority. It's related to the same issue with housing. They're going to screw around for another 5 years. There's going to be the rent pressure zone thing. There's going to be something.
Yeah, but every measure that's introduced seems to disadvantage those. So, say for instance, the rent pressure zones. That the idea of that is to reduce rent. It won't, because firstly, it sets them where they are at now. Rents will never go down because if you're introducing an RPZ to bring in more external investment because they're not making enough money, well, they just stop then. They've got you over a barrel. They just stop then. And turn the tap off when they believe they're not making enough money. How does that increase any supply or future prosperity for rent? We used to talk about home ownership. Now, home rentership is almost unattainable.
Well, the guy from the central bank said during this week that it may have some positive effect on supply a few years down the line, but it's definitely going to negatively affect tenants right now. So that's the central bank. The guy called Kelly said that. So again, yeah, the people who are going to get screwed over and get hurt by the RPZ extension will be people who are renting at the moment. Rents will definitely go up. They're talking about how it's beneficial for the tenants because it gives them greater security of tenure. That's not really going to be true. A bunch of things are going to happen in the next couple of weeks while landlords try and criticise landlords.
But stay where you are. I want to come back to you on the RPZ, but I just want a quick word with Breed on the uniforms and stuff, as I say, because, you know, we can't get the big things right, some would argue. But we seemingly do nothing about the little things, but little things that are incredibly significant to lots of people, Breed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say in relation to this issue with regards to school uniforms, it's not a matter for government. And I was delighted to see that the CCPC came on board because the CCPC do actually have teeth and they can control retail outlets that are engaging in anti-competitive behaviour. So rather than saying this is a matter for government, I think that we should be now putting pressure on the CCPC. And I heard their CEO during the week at one stage saying that if parents discovered that there was, you know, a particular school that required one item to come from a recommended retailer as distinct from a generic brand, that the parents should ring the CCPC because they're going to do something about it. So rather than blaming it all back on government and putting up, you know, the nanny state, I think we you know, as parents, we need to say, okay, lift the phone, ring the CCPC and say, my child is going to a school. I've been told that I have to buy my laptop and my branded sports gear or whatever from a particular retailer, and let them deal with it. That's the way to deal with that, because it is suppressing competition between retailers in telling, you know, I think 75% of schools are told that they have to buy at least one item from a recommended retailer. That's anti-competitive. So I think what we should do as consumers and as parents is that we should lift the phone, ring the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and say, I've been told by the principal that I have to buy my child's laptop from X, Y, or Z, or rather just maybe even just X, and let them deal with it, because they do have teeth and they can deal with that. That's what they're there for, rather than asking government to do it.
No, I agree, and I think I'm a big fan of us being very active ourselves. Before I bring Eileen in, Michael, just come back in on that, please.
The people under most financial pressure are the least likely to know the CCPC even exists. You know, so it's a lone parent in inner city Dublin who's struggling to get uniforms together for her kids next year. She's really unlikely to even know the CCPC. I'm not criticising Breed's suggestion. I think it's a good thing, but it's not the solution either. Somebody does need to intervene. It may not be government, but the people under most pressure in all of these circumstances are the people least able to advocate for themselves or to even know who to ring to get help. So suggesting that they ring the CCPC, I don't think it might be part of the solution, but it's not the solution.
So you believe there should be?
I'm sorry, Greg. I really disagree.
That's
I think that we're underestimating. I think we're underestimating people in this country. I'm working with people day in, day out who are very vocal, who come to me for advice on one thing or another, and they're very, very clued in and very, very aware of how to get advice and where to get advice from. I think we're underestimating people, and I think I'm all for the power of giving people information, telling them what they need to do. And I think we're just we're relying too much on government. and we need to rely more on ourselves to.
Well,
to
listen,
get
I mean, it's
ourselves a
very,
dig out.
very clear. We had the CCPC on the show this week, and following on from what Breed said, I never thought about it. I jumped. If your school is saying that you must buy your jumpers, your trousers, your tracksuit bottoms with embroidery from a certain place, that's anti-competitive. Get on to the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, the CCPC. If you need a telephone number or an email address, contact us and say, look, this isn't fair. Eileen.
Yeah, again, Greg, I think every single family who has young children in school should be getting, obviously, the clothes grants for the children to go back to school. And I know that is means tested and it works for some families. I agree with both Breach and Michael. To a sense, as parents, we do have a level of responsibility because we put a lot of pressure on other parents as well, I believe, you know, as in this, like every year getting the new school bag, getting the top brands as well ourselves and putting pressure on ourselves as our ordinary people putting pressure on themselves, you know. Like already I have a skirt from last year, from this school year, I got for Billy. She only wore a few times. It's getting washed and ironed and she's going to wear it again next year. And the same with the school jumpers, and hopefully it'll go down to Lacey as well. And I think, like, if you can do that, that's absolutely brilliant. But for some people, they absolutely can't, where children don't get, like, the uniforms get well weared, say, even after school, etc. But we don't even talk about the voluntary fund, Greg. Every school has the majority of schools has a voluntary fund, and parents are obliged to pay, say, in around 70 to 100 euro. And I think that's a lot of pressure on families as well. You know, and I do think while the government has a sense of responsibility here to make sure that no school is looking for that voluntary money, that the government are able to give it. Out of shame's sake, I give the voluntary money, but only for that, because I'm a public representative, I wouldn't give the voluntary money, because at the end of the day, that's still, there's nothing to do with the school. That's what the government should be doing.
Yeah, indeed. And the government are doing some stuff as well. And I do wonder maybe if everyone who's entitled to support actually receives the support. For an example, and I thanks to Mabs Derry Begg for pointing out that there is a working family payment for low-income working families. There is stuff there. Go to citizensinformation.ie just to make sure that you're availing of every support that you're entitled to. Eileen, did you want to finish a point there? My apologies.
Yes. My point is, Greg, say, you know, there's some schools in rural parts of Ireland, not just Donegal, that, you know, they have to pay for their own gas and electricity, and they're dependent on parents, right? Like, in one sense, it's rightly so. We have to help out communities, etc. But as Breach said previous, there's people in communities like that's up here while their neighbour is down. Do you know what I mean? So that doesn't measure up. And again, I think the government should support the schools for the communities, instead of the communities keeping on the lights and keeping the gas on, paying for photocopying, etc. There shouldn't be such a thing as that voluntary payment.
Contribution,
Like, you know, for richer people, say, having 2 or 3 children in the school, if they wanted to pay the €100 a year, well, then that's up to them out of the goodness of their heart to do that to the school. But again, there's a lot that's against the law, and people don't know it's against the law, and they're not under any obligation to pay.
Well, it's not a legal obligation, but as you said, you feel you do have to pay it. Michael, did you want to come in there briefly just before the break?
Yeah, it was just something that the brief said about, you know, this isn't a matter for governments, that people shouldn't rely on them and should be more self-reliant. That's true to an extent, but the government can move things when they need to for certain audiences in this country. So, for example, just when we're looking at stuff to do with the housing crisis, the government spent 2.3 billion on HAP payments between 2019 and 2023. So they're handing out about £500 million every year to private landowners. The government can do that. Nobody's claiming that landowners are their, you know, handouts, but so the government can move pretty fast when it benefits people who cannot influence power, but they're not moving fast for people who are desperately in need in Ireland. So the reason we have food banks, which is a disgrace. And I think you made the point, is there anybody that politically represents them? 60, 70 years ago, Fianna Fáil might have, Sinn Féin kind of, but there is a gap there now. Like Social Democrats and Labour are primarily a middle class parties. So I think that there isn't good representation at the moment for people at the bottom end.
No, and I think too, this is a difficult area to get in as to how to explain it without sounding like you're pigeonholing people. But I mean, the harder pressed you are in this country, the less fair it can seem, if I could put it like that. And there was some shifts in policy from Sinn Féin that sort of a lot of those people felt the backs were being turned on them, if I could put it like that, and it become even felt extra disenfranchised. So the party they thought that was, maybe trying for an equal society that supports everyone fairly, whether you're from here or you've come here, and I think a lot of people got peed off with that. We'll come back to that and more after these.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
A water conservation order continues to be in place in the Milford area until August 4th to safeguard the water supply for essential purposes. This order follows many months of dry weather, putting the water source under stress. Please do not use a hosepipe or sprinkler and conserve water wherever you can. Together we can safeguard our water resources. Learn more at water.ie/WCO. Ishka Erin, delivering water services for Ireland.
They say time equals money, so spend your money where you spend your time. No matter what your preference is, Cooney's Home Interiors has something to suit every taste and budget. With our extensive range of home furnishing to fit every room and style, from mattresses and beds to rugs, mirrors and suites of furniture. Visit us in store today and see for yourself what Cooney's have to offer, and let us help you make your dream home a reality. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Huge range, great prices.
Experiencing bladder issues? The integrated specialist continence care team of nurses and physiotherapists provide personalised, compassionate support to help you manage your urinary continence with confidence and care. Talk to your GP today about a referral.
Indulge yourself with friends or a loved one at the Spa at Orchids at the Holyrood Hotel in Bundoran. A midweek or weekend spa break is the perfect way to escape from life for a while. Take a leisurely walk along the Atlantic coast. Enjoy a dip in our private pool, a plunge in our Canadian hot tub, and treatments of your choice before dining in one of the Holyrood Hotel's acclaimed restaurants. The Spa at Orchids. Book now at holyroodhotel.com.
A seesaw, a staring contest, a high five? Some things are hard to do on your own. In business, becoming more sustainable can be one of them. That's why Bank of Ireland has introduced the Sustainable Business Coach. This free digital platform gives you guidance, support, and a practical plan to help you take your next sustainability steps. To get started today, search Bank of Ireland Sustainable Business Coach. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
I've been looking at the new laws on rent pressure zones every which way. They've been signed into law by the President, by the way, and it effectively means that the entire country now is a rent pressure zone. The legislation was fast-tracked by government in an effort to change up the rental sector across the country. It should be said this was done in a couple of days, and there's still people waiting for an extra 10% to rebuild the defective concrete block homes. But that's being held up because process, right? But when you need to do, my word, we can pull the finger out. Michael, we don't have a ton of time on this, but as I say, I've objectively looked at every angle on this, and I still can't find a scenario. It's like when you follow the lines, right, to try and get out the maze. I still can't find a scenario whereby rents come down in Donegal or even are sustained and more rental property becomes available.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand what the benefit of this is. In Donegal, I think there's 5,000 people on the housing waiting list. At the same time, house prices have increased by 10, or projected to increase by 10% this year. Like it seems pretty obvious that what is needed is to build more houses, and I don't see how this is going to help. And as I said, the guy from the Central Bank was saying that he thinks it'll help with supply, but not immediately. But he thinks that immediately will have a bad effect on tenants. So people are under pressure already are going to see their rents increase. So I don't see the logic in this at all.
Well, it effectively sets the rents going forward at the least 1,500 per month in Donegal, 2,200 in Dublin. I mean, that's what it effectively. There's no scenario in this that sees rents come down. This is where we're at going forward.
Yeah, and it doesn't address the problem, which is to build more houses.
Well, apparently the pension funds now will see the pension funds now see it more attractive, and they'll come in and build apartments. Your line's fading a little bit, so we'll go to Breed next. Breed.
Look at this government seems to be just tinkering around at the edges with housing policy and not actually targeting what they need to do. The world over, and I'm not an economist, but the world over and global experience will tell you that rent controls have one effect, and that's reducing the supply of rental housing. This government needs to build houses. It needs to build houses fast. It either does it two ways. It incentivizes private builders to build them, or it builds them itself. The big problem seems to be the lack of infrastructure. And we were talking earlier about the windfall from the Apple monies. Those monies need to be used not for day-to-day spending, but they need to be used to provide the infrastructure that this government and this country needs to build houses.
Why don't we just do that,
with regards to roads, schools, water
So
supply.
why don't we do that, Breed? Because that does fit into you don't use excess money for day-to-day spending, you use it for infrastructure.
Yes.
So that makes sense. So the problem really is we don't have enough water, we don't have enough power, and we don't have enough skilled labour. So we can't build the houses. I mean, we can build them, but not at the scale that's required. So pump money into it, throw money into it, attract people to work here, and throw the kitchen sink at all of this. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. What we need to do is we need to fast track planning. The planning process in this country is an absolute nightmare and it's a disaster. We need to incentivize private builders to build. We need to incentivize local governments to start building houses. I found in my conveyancing practice that the Creeslough grants, the grants for doing up old houses, have been absolutely fantastic.
Massive
the problem
here.
is inflation has reduced the value of that 50 or 70,000 euro. So if I were in government, I'd be increasing those grants and saying, right, I have a young couple at the minute who have just recently bought an old pub on the main street of a town, and you should see what they're doing with this house and with the assistance of the Creeslough grant. Absolutely fantastic.
Unfortunately, properties around here, that grant is not only with inflation and everything else, but unfortunately that grant is now being factored into the selling or the purchasing price of these properties.
Yeah, but I still find, that young couple bought an old pub for 70,000 euro.
Right, okay, fair dues, yeah.
Okay, they're getting 70,000 of a grant. Thankfully, both of them are in full-time employment, one a teacher, one a guard, and they're in a position to get a mortgage to do up an existing property. That's where we need to be focusing on. We need to be incentivizing people in that regard. We need to increase that grant because unfortunately that grant has been reduced with the cost of building. The cost of building has skyrocketed in this country. We also need to have a look at that.
Yep.
But that's what this government needs.
They might even get
this tinkering around the edges is just not going to work.
They might even get another 10 grand off SEIA as well. Eileen, just a minute and a half or 2 minutes to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, Greg, nearly the majority of our politicians in Donegal are all on the fishery committee, which I think is really important. But we need politicians in this county that really understand infrastructure, what we need for our roads, what we need for our planning laws as well. Because it's one thing having supply and having the money, then the planning laws are not there to build enough houses. And I know that for a fact. We need to look at our planning laws. We had the biggest piece of legislation through the Shannon and through the Dáil last year around local planning development bill. And again, we should be planning for this. Donegal has a housing crisis, a health crisis, a mental health crisis, no different than Dublin. We don't see it physically on the streets. Also a drug crisis too. And the politicians in this county, I think, should move a little bit away from the fishing, leave 2 or 3 deal with the fishing. The rest of them need to talk up about ordinary people and the ground in this county who is living in poverty, who choose between eating or heating. It's all right now in the summer, you know, but again, Greg, I just think like it's a big focus in this county is about fishing, not around infrastructure. I'm on the infrastructure committee myself, and I will say it's absolutely mind-blowing how Donegal is the county that, I wouldn't say it's forgotten, but it's the county that's left behind.
Well,
and
like you couldn't really, in all honesty, approve any planning application in Milford because they're out of water. They're out of water there. Buncrana's on the brink, Letterkenny's on the brink, Twin Towns is on the brink of literally being able to get water into properties and get poo out of them. But I must go, Eileen. Go.
We're hearing of more people with houses affected, the concrete affected by the concrete crisis. And again, these are ordinary people who built these houses from scratch that will have little or no support. I heard politicians in the Senate talking about the redress scheme, and numerous of times I wanted to stand up and say, well, actually, it was your party that voted for the way it is today.
I understand. Okay.
You know, and I really think, like, without me sounding in any way non-realistic, you know, the politicians in this county need to work together more collectively, I think, for better roads, for better infrastructure, and for better outcomes for our young people and when it comes to poverty.
Lovely stuff. Senator Eileen Flynn, thank you very much. Powerful words. Have a lovely weekend. Best wishes to the family. Breed, same to you. Thank you so much for your wise words as always.
You're very welcome.
Great having you on the show. Take care. And Michael White, great to have you back. Look after yourself. Have a fantastic weekend and best wishes to all.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Kilmacrennan's brand new mace is here, fully revamped with deli, grocery, accessible toilets and a spacious sit-down area. Enjoy our large Insomnia coffee station, now serving iced coffee. And don't miss the delicious Donegal Rally breakfast, only at O'Donnell's Mace, Kilmacrennan.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Get the job done with the right equipment delivered direct from Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Free delivery on all equipment has been extended to the Finn Valley area, including Ballybuffet, Stranorlar, Castlefin and Killygordon. With great daily and weekend deals available, call Watson Hire, Lisnen and Letterkenny on 9167777. See Facebook or visit watsonhire.ie.
Sofa Week at Easy Living Furniture. Everything's reduced in-store and online, with hundreds of sofa specials and free delivery on all sofa orders over $499. Hurry! Sofa Weekends this Sunday, only at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, London, Derry.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture. Luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
Are you calling me a liar? No, that's not. I'm telling you, this isn't what I ordered. Don't give me that look, you little...
Work-related violence and aggression, it's not just part of the job. As an employer, it's your responsibility to protect workers. For guidance and to learn more about your duties, visit hsa.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, stay mostly dry, mostly cloudy with some brighter sunny spells as isolated showers are possible. No, that's yesterday's weather forecast. You know what? I'll bring you to today's weather forecast at the end of the news with Donal. Sorry, there's not going to be any rain today, I don't think. Okay, back with more after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
It's extremely big. It's extremely scary. And it's extremely good fun. Extreme Fun Fair, the most extreme fun fair to ever visit Letterkenny. From June the 28th to July the 13th at the Kiltoy Roundabout. See Facebook, Instagram or book now at extremefunfair.ie.
Alarm bells on Tams grants. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, as demand surges for Tams funding, Minister Hayden warns farmers about future restrictions. CAP investigation uncovers €20 million fraud and bribery scams. We examine how global conflicts will impact fertiliser prices. Farmers win landmark Supreme Court case on ESB pylons and poles. Minister warns tractor driving tests could hit labour availability. Plus, rugby pundit and cattle dealer Bernard Jackman on scrums, marts and men's health. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
At Restex Beds, we are celebrating 50 incredible years in business. And we are introducing our brand new Glenveigh mattress, comfort that's as legendary as our half-century legacy. Experience 50 years of bedding excellence at Restex Beds, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Restex Beds, leave the rest to us.
John, ráháin agus láté tánaí le dahol, chuig board cardeg.
Is barista den sco John agus tá sé faoi bhí chumas. Mos fós stórthú, agus ma hastín wet all amach, chunis is féidir leis an scéim forjóntais poi, takicht argadis a chuirtchuit. Chun daoine faoi bhí chumas a ostú, té chuig gov.ie/WSS. Is fearr an gnó luch sihir in chuimsíoch a chruthú. Tions gan de chud rialtas na hairna tá ann, ar na chuirthugat ag an rion cuimarcha socialí.
B&Q's Big You Can Do It sale is back. Save big with loads of unmissable summer deals in-store and online. You can do it when you B&Q it. Ends 1st of July.
The Donegal International Rally, regarded as a showpiece event on the Irish motorsport calendar. Follow all the live stage-by-stage action this rally weekend on Highland Radio and online at highlandradio.com. In association with Voodoo Venue Letterkenny, Donegal's premier entertainment venue, where tonight Friday, playing live It's My Generation.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's just gone 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. A temporary restricted airspace notice has been implemented for the duration of the Donegal Rally this weekend. The notice prohibits the use of helicopters and drones across various stages from today until Sunday. The no-fly and no-drone zones include Mamore Gap, Cool Cross, Carndunna, Malin Head, Lough Hyde Glen, Garrygort, Letterkenny, Knockalla, Atlantic Drive, Fanet Head and Carnhill. Enda Walsh of the Irish Aviation Authority says it's an important safety measure.
We've a number of no-fly zones in order to safeguard both the spectators and the competitors in the international rally that's taking place this weekend. So we'd encourage all aviators, be that for manned helicopters or light aircraft or indeed unmanned, which are drones, to make sure they're aware of that. We have a website notice on our website, ia.ie. We have no stairmen in effect, and we've also promoted on our socials as well. So you can check that out, see where those restrictions are, because they do change day to day, and make sure you don't enter that airspace during those times.
And there's a link to those maps and documents available on our website, highlandradio.com. Meanwhile, a number of cars have been seized in Letterkenny and Ballyshannon as Gardaí step up their campaign targeting unsafe and untaxed vehicles. A significant Garda operation is underway with over 100 extra Gardaí drafted into the county, extra Garda cars and motorbikes also being deployed. Former Taoiseach Leo Varadkar says he would forego 2 years of economic growth for the unification of Ireland. The former Taoiseach made the comments during an interview with the BBC Northern Ireland Red Lines podcast. Last year, a report by the Institute of International and European Affairs found that unification would cost €20 billion every 20 years. However, Leo Varadkar says any short-term impact on the economy would be worth it in the long run.
Let's just say it even is 5% of GDP. That's about 2 years economic growth. Would I be willing to forgo 2 years of economic growth for the unification of my island? I would. I think that we'll be able to convince people south of the border that unification is in their interests too. I think a united island economy would be a stronger economy.
There are concerns there won't be enough builders for the amount of regeneration works planned for Donegal in the coming years. A recent meeting of Donegal County Council's Strategic Planning Policy Committee was told that works around €57 million in value are planned. Councillor Paul Canning asked if there's a plan in place to source contractors to ensure that work is done. He says given the demand on the sector in Donegal, particularly with the defective block crisis and vacant home scheme grants, the workforce simply can't keep up. Councillor Conning says an effort must be made to persuade contractors from the county who've moved away to come back.
I think that there needs to be a serious advertising campaign. We have contractors that are working and living in Dublin, all over England. We need to say, listen, guys, we need you to come home, and we can guarantee you at least 20 years' work.
28 parent and toddler groups in Donegal are to share €26,730 in funding. The money can be used for the purchase of children's toys, equipment and books, as well as refreshments and snacks. It can also be used for activities such as arts, crafts and music, or be put toward parenting and first aid courses for adults. It's part of a national allocation totalling almost €422,000 announced this morning by the Children's Minister Norma Foley. And 16 billion passwords have been leaked online. A number of sites and apps have been affected, including logins belonging to Google, Facebook and Apple. Business editor Joe Lynham says people are being advised to be extra vigilant regarding the risk of scams.
Investigators say the leak consists of highly structured, newly harvested credentials, not just recycled data from older hacks. The credentials are collected primarily through InfoStealer malware and are now circulating on the dark web. Very, very worrying.
Weather forecast: warm and sunny today with good spells of sunshine. Top temperatures 25 to 29 degrees Celsius in light southeasterly breezes. Tonight it'll be mostly dry and clear with some isolated showers possible. Lowest overnight temperatures 14 to 18. Tomorrow Saturday mostly warm again with bright sunny spells. Some scattered showers may develop. A number of them could be heavy and possibly thundery at times. Top temperatures on Saturday 19 to 24 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with headlines at 11 o'clock. Check all the day's news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Friday morning, the 20th of June. The death has occurred of Peggy McGinty, née Quinn, 376 Balladurg, Letterkenny, formerly of Clohan Beg, Clohan. Peggy's remains will repose at the family home from 2 o'clock this afternoon. Requiem Mass at 12 noon on Sunday in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, followed by burial in Conwall Cemetery. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 12 noon daily, with Rosary nightly at 8 o'clock. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if desired, to the Special Olympics Letterkenny Strikers via any family member or Marley Funeral Directors. The Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Robert Elliott, 30, Railway Park, Donegal Town, formerly of Farragon's, Litcher, reposing in Tyrconnell Funeral Home, Drumroosk, Donegal Town, from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock this evening. Reposing at his late residence tomorrow from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Funeral service in Donegal Parish Church at 2:30 on Sunday afternoon, followed by burial in the Glebe Cemetery, Donegal Town. The house is strictly private, please, on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of John Lee, Richmond Hill, Rathmines, Dublin 6, formerly of Ballyshannon, reposing at Massey Brothers Funeral Home, Templeogue Village, this afternoon from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Removal tomorrow morning to the Church of Our Lady Refuge of Sinners, Rathmines, arriving for 10 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by cremation service at the Victorian Chapel, Mount Jerome, Harold's Cross. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to the Irish Cancer Society. The house is private, please. And the death has taken place of Jerry Gallagher, 6 Bayview, Carndonagh. His remains are reposing at his home. Removal from there tomorrow at 10:30, going to Sacred Heart Church, Carndonagh, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live on churchmedia.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to the Donegal Hospice Fund, care of any family member or Kelly's Funeral Directors. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock tonight. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio.
Oh, is she crying? Her blankie was in there. Just, yeah.
So just the one bag didn't show? No, you're covered for the bag. Yeah, that too.
That's how VHI does travel insurance. VHI Multi-Trip. Terms and conditions apply. VHI Healthcare DAG trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to Collinson Insurance Europe Limited for VHI Multi-Trip travel insurance.
We'll be crossing over to Oisin Kelly in the not too distant future to set the scene for the Donegal Rally. And we'll also have some updates on for you a little later on, but that's on throughout the weekend as well. And what a busy one it is, because we've got Donegal playing at the weekend as well, and we're in that business end of the season where it's win or bust, which is always nerve-wracking but very exciting. Thanks again to Michael White, Breed Curran, Senator Eileen Flynn. A caller says, my daughter and her husband are paying €1,000 per month rent in a small town. They have 4 small children. They're both working, so get no benefits, and they want to save for a house deposit, but they can't. They're struggling and stuck between a rock and a hard place, and that's it. They're trapped really in that situation. And, there's an irony in that there are people that meet their rental payments, say, of €1,000 per month, €1,500 per month, no problem. Never miss a payment, and then they go to a bank to try and get their own mortgage for their own property, and they go, well, you can't afford it. You simply can't afford that. Yet they can demonstrate that they can afford rent at that rate. Primary school uniforms, a parent spent an average of €119 in uniforms. Secondary school uniforms, parents spend an average of €211 on uniforms. Sounds a lot, but once again, it's subsidised for lower income families, so it's no issue for them, and it's the working families who pay these high prices. White is talking BS. They were very well-educated people emigrating 40 years ago because successive Irish governments since 1932 have created economic situations to force immigration in every decade to avoid a revolution in Ireland and keep a small elite in power. I don't believe I respect your view, and I'm not saying you're incorrect. It's just that level of coordination seems unlikely to me that we'd be fit to do it. But anyway, morning, Greg. A 2-tier system has been discussed by government this last 40 years and is just not implementable. FIS, now WFP, was introduced as a type of second tier along with all other child payments on social welfare claims. The people who a second tier of child benefit would really harm are the families just above limits for receiving assistance but working full-time and paying for absolutely everything. And that's the point I made myself, in that, you can identify easily perhaps those who are receiving support as it is and target them, but there is that chunk, the squeezed middle, and that's a sizable amount of people. I would say probably the most people in Donegal are in poverty or working poor. And that sounds... Well, in fact, listen, we know that because we've got the deprivation index which shows that. We know where the deaf schools are. We know where the lowest disposable income is, and it's all in Donegal. So the stats are there to back that up. Hands off the children's allowance, says a listener. Why don't you start taxing TDs and councillors' expenses? Why do they get so much and don't need it? Read child benefit. I'm a working mother. If child benefit is means tested, we'll be the ones suffering. We've 3 children and have no medical card, no add-ons, yet the social welfare family next door gets free medical care, free childcare, and often are the ones with the kids in designer labels and on holidays. Yeah, indeed, and that's really important. What way did you start that off? Someone else says, don't mess with it. And you know what? We could find ourselves worse off. I'm surprised that none of the panel realised that child benefit was brought in to protect the mother. It doesn't matter how rich someone is. Yeah, but it's about really... I don't think anyone wants to diddle with child benefit. It's just to make sure that, I suppose, people that need supports in this country are supported the most, those that genuinely need them. Ireland's standard VAT rate of 23% is one of the highest in the world, which directly impacts the price of most consumer goods. That's what needs to change. Another Ireland is a small island nation with a limited amount of natural resources. This means a significant portion of goods must be imported. And another, renting a home here is extremely expensive. This is a major driver of the overall cost of living. Yes, it's crazy, and that's my point. And I'm looking for evidence in the new rent pressure zone legislation that is designed to make it more attractive for foreign investors to invest in developing houses in this country. But what kind of houses are they going to develop? It's going to be apartments, isn't it? It's going to be quick turnarounds in urban areas. No international investor is going to come to Donegal and build 40 houses, are they? So how does this, other than sort of fixing the rents at where they are now plus inflation, the way it is now, if you're renting for €600 or €700 per month and you outgrow that property or you want to move somewhere else, instantly the minimum you're going to pay is the market rate, unless you receive a landlord that's just a charity organisation. So instantly, if you had to leave your property now, or you moved out of it, you're instantly going to see your rent doubled. How is that a benefit? You're trapped. The Greens destroyed the country by taking fuel, which increases the cost of transport, so food prices are immediately hit. The one thing I'll say, you can criticise the Greens, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, you can criticise the opposition, but there's some of this stuff happening outside the world of politics, like our fuel through the roof. I mean, we pay high VAT, right, but it's still much higher even when you factor that in. The cost of food, I know we import, but we export a lot. What else is there? The cost of car insurance, that's just, they're charging us what they know they can get away with. So we can talk about VAT rates and governments this and governments that, but the government maybe have a role in trying to drive prices down. But a lot of it is they're literally saying, that's the Irish, let's shaft them. It has to be, because there's no justification for it. A lot of the things that we're dealing with, that every country is dealing with, similar sized countries are smaller countries, less rich countries, and yet we're only behind Denmark in terms of the cost of living in a country. That doesn't make sense. Our prices go down less because our market is far freer than that of the mainland, and the more free a market, the more the consumer is exploited, says a listener. Two more. The French were never colonised, nor France occupied. The keep your head down and say nothing attitude in Ireland is a colonial hangover, and the government takes full advantage of it. Indeed, I mean, we even politicise our own flag. I didn't really dig too much into the debate on this that was emerging, but you can't even now apparently fly the tricolour proudly because it means something. Does that happen in any other country where our national flag is politicised or people are embarrassed to put it out because they might be seen as one way or other? That's absolutely crazy. No one owns the Irish flag but us, all of us equally. But again, is any other country going to make its citizens potentially feel guilty for putting the flag out? No way, Jose. Once again, it's the squashed middle left out of the conversation. Families earning around 100k aren't living in luxury, especially with childcare, mortgages and the cost of living in Ireland. It's frustrating to see support framed as either for those on social welfare or nothing at all, as if the middle doesn't exist or doesn't struggle. Policies need to reflect the full picture, not just the extremes. I get where you're coming from, but if 100k was coming into our house, I think I'd be really comfortable, to be honest with you. I don't think I'd feel the squeezed middle. €100,000 is an awful lot of money, and as I say, if that was coming into our house, I would be over the moon, I feel. But it seemed to be framed as, around about average. I seriously need to look at my employment status, because if that's average, we're pretty much well below average, I must say. Let me play a request, please. It's our wonderful mum and dad. They're having a happy Emerald anniversary. Emerald is how many, Caroline? How much is Emerald? The wedding anniversary Emerald is what? 50, 60, 30? Google it, Katie, will you? Is it 35? Okay, brilliant. Who knew that? Katie? She 55. Okay. Our wonderful mum and dad, a very happy Emerald anniversary. What a fantastic milestone to reach. Hope you both enjoy all the celebrations. Lots of love from Rachel, Michael, Elia and Bobby. So hopefully we don't have your names, but hopefully you know who you are by your family. So mum and dad, have a wonderful, happy Emerald anniversary from all of us here at Highland and around the Northwest, of course. Enjoy your celebrations, particularly with love from Rachel, Michael, Elia and Bobby.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 20th of June. You're playing on the yellow sheet for the daily prize of €400. The reference number is S5. It's game number 25. The numbers are 86, 66 48 46 2 58 50 21 43 and finally 75. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
It's a big open day this Saturday the 21st of June at White Oaks Organic Farm at the Easis Centre in County Donegal. From 11am, enjoy sheep clipping, dog trial demonstrations, kids games, live music, garden goodies and tasty cafe treats. A free day for all the family. Come celebrate community, nature and good food together. Don't miss our new polytunnel. That's our big open day at White Oaks Organic Farm at the Easis Centre, F93 F104. See you there.
Milford Tiles, Milford Retail Park. Spring sale now on in our bathware department. Back to wall toilets, €199. 12 by 900 slider door, end panel and tray, €699. Wall hung vanity units and basin, €399. In stock and ready to go at Milford Tiles. 083 0910 707.
Brian McCormick Sports. New Hoka trainers in-store and online. Try the new Clifton 10, even softer as you take every stride. New range of colours for men and women. Different widths to suit your feet. Bondi 9. New colours for men and women. Take the Hoka Challenge and see what fits you best. If you're road running or walking, maximise your comfort and support at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Granny, did you hear what I said?
If you've been saying, "What was that?" a bit more lately, it might be time to have your hearing checked. At Connect Hearing, we don't just fit hearing aids, we help you hear life again. From tiny in-the-ear styles to Bluetooth connected devices, we fit the best solution for you. Call 074 911 3296. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
All right, lots of us out there have drones now. They've become very accessible, of course, and the temptation is there with the Donegal International Rallies to get that shot that not everybody else is getting. But you have to be careful because there are temporary restricted airspace notices out there. It's being implemented for the Donegal Rally. And Enda Walsh is the UAS drones manager with the Irish Aviation Authority. How are you getting on, Enda?
Very well. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Right. Okay. So what is in place and where, and how would you know that it's okay or not okay to put your drone up?
Okay, so we have a number of airspace restrictions around the various stages of the rally, both today, tomorrow and Sunday, and they're different on each of the 3 days. And that's a restriction on all aircraft. So that includes helicopters and drones. And of course, it's to ensure the safety of the competitors and the spectators. We don't want any distraction or interference during the rally. We have notice to airmen published. It's the official route that all pilots and road pilots will check. We've also have it up on our website. The Garda Síochána have publicised it, and we have it up on all our socials as well. So you can see the various charts there and the areas that are restricted.
So who would do you sort of monitor events and be proactive in that regard? And I'm sure you're always proactive. Or would the Donegal Rally contact you guys and say, look, we're concerned that maybe a drone could come down in front of a car, or I don't know, whatever it might be. How does it work in terms of establishing these measures?
Indeed. So we would have various restrictions on airspace for safety and security reasons. There'd be permanent ones established, for example, around certain prisons or the Curragh camp for military, and then around the airports on safety grounds. And in this instance, the Gardaí would have reached out to us to request the establishment of these restrictions for security and safety reasons. Yeah,
because they apparently have air cover up as well too, so maybe that's the and there's a downdraft and all that kind of stuff. So I suppose it's all quite logical, isn't it?
Yeah, so the Garda Heli may be about to protect that, and again to ensure no distraction to the competitors and to keep the safety of spectators in mind. Now, if individuals wish to fly a drone or into the area, they may request authorization to Letterkenny Garda Station, so they're aware of where they're coming in, where they're operating. And just so people are aware, anyone flying an aircraft, manned or unmanned, needs to be aware. It's an obligation on them to ensure they're aware of those restrictions. And if they penetrate that airspace, they may be subject to prosecution. The Gardaí on the day as well can seize any drones flying in that airspace.
So really what you're saying there is ignorance isn't a defence. If you have one of these things, you have to ensure that you know you're safe to fly it. Out of interest, when you implement these no-fly zones, does it interact with the likes of the DJI software? So say someone has a DJI drone and they were to put it up. Is that flagged through their software that there are current restrictions in place?
Absolutely. So we publish a file in a common unique digital format that all remote pilots are obliged to upload onto their devices. So it's there on their controllers. Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. This applies to all drones regardless of weight.
It does indeed. All aircraft, in fact. Not
yeah,
just
I know
drones.
that, but I know none of my listeners have a helicopter, so you'll have to excuse me focusing on drones.
Yeah, all drones, regardless of weight.
Right. How big of a problem, if at all, are drones or any on a sort of unofficial sort of flights? You know, in terms of airports and what have you? Like, how do you track them? Do you have to visually see them? Are you able to track even these small items, or what way does that work?
So you can imagine, you mentioned airports there, for example. So even a small drone at an airport can have a significant safety impact. If you think that even flocks of birds can be detrimental to aircraft, so can a drone if it was ingested into the engine. But even in terms of disruption, so a drone in an airfield will cause a number of go-arounds, delayed flights, and so on. Every major airport in the country would have a counter UAS plan in place. You know, in Dublin, for example, there's detection equipment there to identify the drones. There's counter UAS equipment to signal jam and take them down if necessary, coordination with the Gardaí. So the airports will have quite robust plans in place to deal with drones.
Yeah, okay. And I wonder, is drone use as common as it was? I think as they became very accessible, there seemed to be a massive sort of influx of people purchasing them, and you'd hear them all over the place. Not as much now. I wonder, is the novelty worn off a little bit like 3D?
It's still continuing to grow. The initial spike has leveled off a little bit, but we would have over 8,000 operators in the state. We have over 23,000 unmanned pilots trained up. And I suppose I reiterate the message I always do, that be aware you are obliged to register your drone if it has a camera or if it's over 250 grams with ourselves. We'll give you an operator ID that you're required to display on the drone and to upload onto it. And in fact, members of the public, all drones broadcast their registration, their location, their height, where the remote pilot is. There's a number of free apps available on the App Store to scan this. So that's broadcast over Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So if you do see a drone flying over your back garden and you think it might be operating legitimately, with these apps, you can hold it up, you'll get that information, and you can report that into ourselves and the Aviation Authority.
One quick question, and I wonder, is it under the auspices of the IAA? The frequency in which the controllers connect with the drone itself. You know, in the United States, I believe, in other areas, I'm sure. I think they operate in 5G. It might not be 5G, but at much greater range. Okay, but here in this country, we have to use a different frequency that gives us a much shorter range. Is that under the auspices of the IAA, and what's the logic behind it if it is?
So different drones will use different frequencies. There's a variety available. For example, we have one operator, an Irish operator, where their pilots are located in Dublin, but in fact they're controlling drones in Finland, and that's over the mobile telephony network. Others are over the Wi-Fi network.
I'm on about sort of just your average at-home drone user, if you know what I mean.
Generally, it's over a Wi-Fi type network, but there are a variety of frequencies.
But why aren't we allowed to use the frequency they have in different countries that gives you much greater scope?
Manufacturers can decide to use a variety of frequencies. Okay. It's not that constrained, other than the control bands the Comreg would keep control over. But there's a variety.
Right, it must be Comreg then, because they definitely have we definitely have a different frequency in which we can operate. I think we use 2.4 gigahertz here, and I think it might be
the 5 point, okay.
In the United States. Thank you very much for your time, Enda Walsh, UAS drones manager with the Irish Aviation Authority. authority, or is it the reverse? Anyway, your DJI or whatever, if you're in the United States, that thing can fly 5 or 10 kilometers in comfort. But if you use it in this country, because of the frequencies we're compelled to use, you start sort of getting a bit dodgy, potentially at a kilometer. I'm no further on to finding out why that might be the case. But anyway, there is a new insurance company advertising prominently in the media whose selling point is that they will return 10% of your premium if you have 3 years without a claim. This means that you have to stay with this insurer for 3 years to benefit. In those 3 years, your premium could even double. I can't see many customers falling for that. I haven't read the T's and C's. Greed, says a listener. If millionaires feel that they have a right to child benefit, then they absolutely don't need it. Then why not give the dole to everyone as well, like the ABBA song, Money, Money, Money? My daughter just turned 18. She can't find a job and can't get social welfare because she lives at home. It's a joke. What area is she in? What's she interested in doing? Let us know. We can throw it out there. A caller says it's the middle-income tax-paying workers who struggle the most financially. No benefits other than the children's allowance, which is absolutely needed. If I'm a builder, says another, working abroad where wages are good, houses are affordable, why should I consider coming home to work in Ireland? Like the nurses who were called home, I mightn't even get a job. Building commencements would be tied down and suffocated by planning laws, appeals and environmental impact studies, which could drag out for years. Progress in Ireland is stagnant and there's nothing on the horizon to convince any worker settled abroad to return home. But look, at the end of the day, what I don't understand is why we don't pay our nurses and doctors more. One of the big attractions to the likes of Australia and elsewhere, and God knows we've got some people in positions of power in government that have a vested interest in this, in attracting our skilled talents abroad. Why can't we match their wages? They're incredibly important workers. We need people to build houses. Why aren't we paying them the money that those people earn for their skills? Right. Very disappointing news for those seeking an oral hearing on the Creeslough redevelopment. Those requests have been rejected. I'm going to be speaking to Anne-Marie Boyle in relation to that after a short break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
The moment you got told the good news.
Rob, you made the panel.
When the lads added you into the group. Skipping nights out, missing the crack. Rewatching classics and learning new tricks. Being driven to the biggest game of your life by your mam. And then you finally come on in the 51st minute. It's the minor moments that last a lifetime. The Electric Ireland GAA Minor Championships. This is major.
At the Central Statistics Office, we're trusted to gather all sorts of information. So, we count exports, imports, airports and seaports. We count schools, pools and how many O'Tools? We count emissions, permissions and social conditions. We count beds, sheds and newlyweds. We count families, growing trees and diversity. Because this data informs important decisions on everything from economic activity to housing policy to what to call a new baby. And we can't do it without you. CSO. Count on us. We count on you.
Soak up the sun this summer at Home Store and More. From stylish garden furniture to sizzling barbecues, twinkling solar lights and colourful garden decor. Stylish parasols and spacious gazebos, all your sunny day heroes. A welcoming smile as you walk through the door. More choice and more savings we're famous for. Drop by your local Home Store and More or shop online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
It's extremely big, it's extremely scary, and it's extremely good fun. Extreme Fun Fair, the most extreme fun fair to ever visit Letterkenny. From June the 28th to July the 13th at the Kiltoy Roundabout. See Facebook, Instagram or book now at extremefunfair.ie.
Fed up with unexpected car bills and just want trouble-free motoring? Then call in to Barry Brown Cars, your main Suzuki dealer, and place your 252 Suzuki order today with an incredible 10-year warranty and 0% finance. What's not to love? Packed with features and renowned for reliability, Suzuki's unbeatable offers are taking the car market by storm. So call in to Barry Brown Cars in Milford Waterford or Donegal Town to secure your 252 Suzuki today and drive away with peace of mind thanks to that amazing 10-year warranty.
So we've learned that An Bord Pleanála has rejected a request for an oral hearing against the planned redevelopment of a service station at the site where 10 people lost their lives in Creeslough over 2 years ago now. Family members who lost loved ones requested that an oral hearing would be held as part of their appeal against the planned redevelopment of the service station. Anne-Marie Boyle, sister of Catherine O'Donnell and aunt to James, joins me on the show now. Anne-Marie, thanks for your time this morning. Was it a case, I suppose, that you thought that if you could get in front of these people and they had to listen to what you had to say, that they would be compelled to take on board the arguments that you were making? Why was it so important, do you think, to get an oral hearing?
Good morning, Greg. Yeah, Greg, it's just for some of the families that had written in looking for an oral hearing, and I know that some of their legal teams had requested the same, and we requested this because of what Bord Pleanála themselves have documented, or what they've documented, what constitutes like an oral hearing. Bord Pleanála normally decide to hold oral hearings and cases where there's some complex cases, and as families of the bereaved that has written asking and requesting this, we believe that our cases are very much complex case. It is a complex case, and to afford families who wanted to go and have an oral hearing and speak directly to the planners or the An Bord Pleanála, the board itself. As far as we think, they can communicate. Some families can communicate more
verbally.
Verbally,
Exactly. Sometimes it's hard to articulate.
Trying to get their
ahead.
To get their point across. Yeah. And we just feel that to be afforded this opportunity to do that for some of the families would be very beneficial. And as far as we were aware, that nothing was going to be discussed until at least the 14th of July, but then it had come out, and I was speaking to Donna Harper, who lost Leona, was saying the same thing. Like we're hearing again. Now legal teams hadn't even heard about this, and then it's there in the media again. But as I say, some families know, like we went to meet the Justice Minister at that time, and we all know how that went. Didn't go anywhere, and now we have another minister who's in situ, and families have written to the now previous minister. And some families have got a response and some families didn't. I had a family member who was very upset last week and contacted me. I have kind of taken a step back because of other commitments and responsibilities within my personal life. But I don't still turn my phone off and not speak to the families that are directly affected. And one did contact me on Friday who was very upset. And was the same thing, hoping that we would get a chance to put our case across, and we just don't think that anybody's listening.
I just don't understand why people most affected by dedicating so much of your time effectively as sort of an advocate campaigner, however you might want to describe it. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, having to take a step back even though the phone's on. All people are looking for really is a thorough and fair process that everybody has access to. Not to throw the process out, but just to give everyone in the way they're most comfortable an opportunity to express why they may be for, potentially, but certainly in some cases against such a development on such a sensitive site that will go down in history forever.
Yeah, there's so much talk in the media and the news, Greg, in relation to what's going on in other parts of the world, and that's really good to have that in the media. But when things are happening like this, it's this major event on our doorstep. Why, as you say, why do we have to, still grieve, but have to fight to have our say, be the voice for our families who have been killed and have died in this, and even our own mother and another family, Martina's mum, these two mums gone to their grave not knowing anything. And how many more people are we going to be talking about that go without answers? What we are asking for is a chance to verbally communicate our losses and affording us the opportunity to do this. As I say, within Bord Penala, their documentation where they actually do state they do hear oral hearings, in particular when it's in relation to complex cases. This is most certainly one of those complex cases. I think that...
Yeah, I was going to read a quote here, and our listeners can decide if they believe that this case falls into these parameters. The board has absolute discretion to hold an oral hearing and generally holds one where this will help its understanding of a particular complex case, or where it considers that in a case involving significant national or local issues, the written submissions need to be supplemented by an oral hearing of the issues.
Yeah.
That by that criteria, how can Creeslough not fall into that?
That's what we can't. That's what we can't understand. It's within their own documentation. Gives the families the opportunity to put their voice, a voice for their family who have gone.
You see, the problem here
we're their voices.
Yeah, I was going to say what this comes down to, really, though, if the truth be told, in my opinion, is in terms of Donegal County Council or An Bord Pleanála, or in fact the entire system. It's about whether cars can get in and out safely. It's about how high the roof is. It's about how much concrete is poured. I don't think there's any provision in planning either locally or through An Bord Pleanála whereby they can consider what impact this might have in terms of the size of the I don't know whatever you would call that, to the memorial little bit of grass beside where they park their bikes, or you know. There doesn't seem to be any scope either at council level or on Bord Pleanála level that thinks outside cars exiting or entering a building on the side of the road. In other words, this is irrelevant that this is the site of the Creeslough tragedy as far as planning is concerned. So what's there to protect families?
Nothing. And when you were saying just there about in relation to the cars exiting and entering the site, it was never a safe site. As you know, my mum and dad are from Creeslough, were from Creeslough, and many a day that I've gone in myself to the previous shop and trying to get in and out was a disaster, because you're coming onto that main road, and it is, I know there's a speed limit there, but it's still a fast road and it's very unsafe. But to look at the plans and everything that has gone before, everything's always been out there before we have been told. And then to see something in a newspaper and what they think is acceptable for a memorial garden, no discussion. And I just think with things that are happening on our doorstep, we're in Donegal, and as I say, a lot of people say Donegal's the forgotten county. It certainly is, in all ways and means, even from the side of this hospital and all that's going on, and recruitment and the pauses and the stress that we were all under here within the hospital, but that's for another story. I think there should be more.
Yeah. I just struggle to get my head around. we're a small area, and I don't want to upset anyone, but sometimes you just have to be a bit frank. I just struggle to to come to terms with how your families are being remembered, being enforced upon you. That's very difficult for me, because in any other scenario, I think people decide that themselves. They find out what's fitting. They find out what in some way might give them comfort, or they feel reflects their loved one or is appropriate. As far as I can see here, it's contained within the plans. This is being dictated to the survivors and the families of victims as to how they're remembered, So, like, I know people who can identify precisely where their family members took their last breath on that site.
Yeah.
And every time they go past, they
We
might
can
see
all
a
remember that, Greg. We can all remember.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? They might see a car sitting there, or a bike, or whatever it might be, and then over in the corner,
I know
there's
exactly.
a
I know exactly where my own sister's car was.
I'm not trying to upset you, Anne-Marie, but I'm just
No,
trying to.
no.
I'm trying to get the wider public to understand, and also
Yeah.
understand that there's a couple of things going on here. There's mourning, there's loss, but there's trauma, and trauma is part of grief, but it's also separate to grief. And people need to understand that every time something like this happens, it re-traumatizes, which is very different and is debilitating for many people. So that's why this remains so important. Anne-Marie.
Like we go on about it, we try and go on about our everyday life for our own grandkids, our own families, and whatever, our own children. But like you say, when something comes up like this again, and it's all there in the media, and not been afforded the opportunity to let families verbally communicate to these individuals who sit on a board in Dublin the opportunity. As we say, this is a very, very complex case.
We also, though, have a piece of paper that they have sent from Donegal County Council, which I would have thought in the on-board Planala process should be sort of impartial, but a letter sent by the Donegal County Council on behalf of it, or from a member of it, not an elected member, stating that they are of the belief that on-board Planala should uphold their decision. So, all right, Anne-Marie. Listen, go ahead, Anne-Marie, sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, I think before any decisions are finally made, I think that the families, when they have requested something, that individuals should listen. And as I say, there's lots of talk about different things going on in the world. Let us talk about what's happening on our doorstep.
Yeah, I know it must feel like the whole world has moved on and forgotten about it at times, Anne-Marie, and it's a lonely battle to try and get even just a say.
No answers, and just we understand things have to carry on. Life goes on, but
it's just very important to remember that we had a point where the president was up here. It was Micheál Martin up at the time. Anyway, loads of politicians were up. And they had so much to say to the point whereby funeral processions were adjusted to actually even accommodate some of these visitors. And we're at a point now, it's not even 3 years, we're at a point now where the Justice Minister actually in some cases is not even replying to letters. So we've gone from, the country being devastated, everyone coming up for a look-see, to the point whereby now you can't even get a letter replied to. And I think people need to sort of take that on board. Not you guys, you know where I'm on about, Anne-Marie. That's how far things have moved on, because there's no value in it anymore. For national politicians, what there's no value. What's the point?
And I have to just like to take this opportunity, and I know other family members have said the same thing, Greg, in relation to any of the media, yourselves included, as our local radio, but newspapers far and beyond Donegal, how much empathy and compassion they have shown to us when we've been asked to come and speak and put our points of view across. We would just like to thank them and thank yourselves.
Anne-Marie, look after yourself. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. That's Anne-Marie Boyle there, who's the sister of Catherine O'Donnell, who very sadly passed away, and aunt to James as well.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Rally weekend at Beauty Venue Letterkenny, Donegal's premier entertainment destination, where tonight, play live It's My Generation. Experience top-tier entertainment this rally weekend at Beauty Venue Letterkenny, proud associate sponsor of the Donegal International Rally.
We're serving up summer at Dunnes Stores with a refreshing range of ice pops and cones, any two for €5. Keep cool with strawberry and lemon ice bars or caramel cones topped with sticky caramel sauce. Craving a treat? Try mini Viennese vanilla ice cream, coated in milk chocolate. Or tropical ice pops with vanilla ice cream and mango and passion fruit puree. Plus, you can save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Celebrate your love at Encourage Hotel, nestled in the heart of Donegal. With breathtaking views of Errigal Mountain and elegant surroundings, our venue offers the perfect setting for your special day. Experience exceptional service and create unforgettable memories. Discover more at encouragehotel.com.
It's Sofa Week at Easy Living Furniture. Everything's reduced in-store and online, with hundreds of sofa specials and free delivery on all sofa orders over $4.99. Hurry! Sofa Weekends this Sunday, only at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, London, Derry.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all.
Easy Living Furniture. Luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
Northwest Regional College has launched its exciting range of part-time courses starting this September, and enrolments are now open. Whether it's a new skill or a new career direction, there's something on offer for everyone. We have hundreds of professional and technical course options to choose from. To find out more, visit nwrc.ac.uk/part-time. Enhance your career today by enrolling on a part-time course at Northwest Regional College.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenney's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Okay, now let's have a look at the weather forecast, see if I can get it open for you. I'm having issues with my phone today in terms of getting the weather, but I have it now, I believe, because it has to be. No, I don't have today's weather. I'll read it off the internet here, but it's more regional, whereas my phone's more accurate. Warm and sunny with good spells of sunshine, highest temperatures of 25 to 29 degrees. And, of course, you know what happens when it gets really, really warm? The first thing we want to do, or many of us want to do, is cool off. And why not? Enjoy the water. We've got so much water, be it sea or... on land, but we really have to be very, very careful. Finn Mullins, volunteer and water safety education manager with the RNLI. Good morning to you, Finn. Thanks for your time.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on here this morning. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's wonderful to get into the water, especially whenever the weather's good. We absolutely love to see people enjoying themselves in the water, because with the right precautions, you can do that very safely. We love to say to the kids, you can have fun and stay safe. The two things aren't mutually incompatible. But yeah, whenever the weather is good, more people get into the water, and that can lead to an increase in incidents. I suppose the Hollywood idea of lifeboating is that we go out in large stormy seas, which we do. But the reality is that when the weather's really good, we also get a lot of incidents. And it's even just a point generally whenever people are going abroad on their holidays. Remember, if you're somewhere warm, the air is warm, the water is warm, the dangers that are in water, and by water I mean seas, rivers and lakes, it's always still there. Mm-hmm. We have the added danger in our country that our water is cold year round. So the medical definition of cold water is less than 15 degrees. And we have that year round on our beaches, on our rivers and our lakes. So even though the air is warm, the water is still cold. And that can trigger certain problems like cold water shock. And it can also mean that people, their guard is down. They're just feeling like more relaxed. And of course, we want people to enjoy the water and we want people to enjoy the good weather, but always have at the back of your mind that water is unpredictable,
Yeah,
be it in
and
seas, rivers, or lakes.
for sure, just focusing on the sea, I think there's quite a decent local knowledge of where it's safe to swim locally, but always be careful. Obviously, I think often what we find, Finn, it's maybe people visiting the area that aren't necessarily aware that some places aren't safe, or maybe not being aware of incoming tides. And then, of course, generally speaking, we've a lot of blow up stuff that's knocking about the place as well. And I think we've got onshore breezes at the moment, but very quickly they can turn easterly. So it's just to be careful, I suppose, if you think you know the water really well, but if you're traveling outside of what you do know, to ensure that you familiarise yourself with what's safe, what's not. Is there a lifeguard? Is it a blue flag beach? It's not hard to find this information out.
Yeah, we're really lucky in County Donegal that we have so many blue flag beaches, and part of the requirement is that that blue flag beach has a lifeguard service. So if you go on Irish Water Safety's website or the Donegal Council website, you can see all our lifeguarded beaches. They're on at the weekends in June and full-time in July and August, and revert back to a weekend service coming into September. But the easy way to always stay safe is go to a lifeguarded beach. No matter where you are on this island or abroad, if you go to a lifeguarded beach within the lifeguarded hours, you don't even have to think about all the precautions that we would normally advise people to take about checking the weather, checking the tides, having your means of communication, having your means of flotation, always telling someone where you're going to be and when time you're going to be back. When you're at a lifeguarded beach, that's their job. They will look after you. You swim between the red and yellow flags. That'll keep you safe. If there's a red flag flying, it means don't go in the water, don't go swimming. If there's no flag flying, it means there's no lifeguard on duty. So the easy way to always stay safe, regardless of whether you're a visitor or a local, is always go to a lifeguarded beach if you want to visit the coast.
All right, Finn, finally, just if you don't mind, inland waters, rivers and lakes. I'm particularly cautious of these, and I've been so in advice to my boys, because there can be weeds, there can be other items in there. The water can be particularly cold. There's certainly no lifeguards. Anything flooded quarries, rivers, lakes, extra careful.
Yes, that's really good advice, because I guess it's another myth buster that we have, that inland waters, rivers and lakes are just as dangerous, sometimes can be even more dangerous than on the coast, for all the reasons that you've just talked about. Fresh water, by its very nature, doesn't have as much buoyancy as salt water. And for most of the year, rivers and lakes are colder. And there's a lot of unknowns. You may not know the depth. There may be stuff underneath the surface that's unmarked. And yeah, there's generally less people around. They're isolated. They don't have lifeboats and they don't have lifeguard services. We've got lifeboats on our bigger lakes on this island, on Lough Erne, Upper and Lower, and Lough Ree and Lough Derg is where we have RNLI lifeboats, and sometimes there's independent lifeboats on some of the other stretches. But generally, they're much more isolated. And I think a point worth remembering is that most people that end up in trouble in the water never even expected to get wet that day.
Yeah.
So they slip, trip, or fall into the water. And our advice always, if you're in trouble in the water, float onto your back.
Yep.
Roll over onto your back so that your head is so far back that your ears are wet. Stretch out your arms and legs, lightly move your hands and legs to help you stay floating. Stay in that position until you've controlled your breathing. Make a decision then. If you think that you're able to swim to shore, swim to shore. If not, stay on your back. Use one hand to help you float. Raise the other hand into the air, signaling for help and shouting for help.
And never ever mix water and drink alcohol.
Yeah, of course. And it's always a tendency that people, whenever the weather is good or we have weekends or whatever, that they might want to consume alcohol, but that is never a good idea around water. We always say don't mix alcohol and water.
Okay.
Those things are a lethal combination.
Thanks for all your advice. You and your crews stay safe as well. I do appreciate what you do. Finn Mullen there, volunteer and water safety education manager with the RNLI. In relation to On Bold Pleanála rejecting an oral hearing, it certainly is concerning, says the listener. From my understanding, On Bold Pleanála doesn't believe that this hearing is needed because, in their words, that this case hasn't significant national or local issue interest. It is concerning that 10 people died and it made worldwide news. It's sad to hear the appeal has been rejected. It was an opportunity to hear from families. Time moves on and no one remembers the way families do. I would like to see the shop built with a beautiful forever memorial on the site. The shop was the hub of the town and I'd like to see that again. I know that's not what the families want, but I do feel it should go ahead. Of course, there is also now another application doing the rounds in the area. I was emotional listening to the Creeslough piece. I had a young neighbour who died in a car collision in Creeslough a number of years ago. I feel so sorry for her and understand what she's going through. And hi, Greg. Always love to see the planes and helicopters flying around the Donegal Rally. It truly added to the event from a spectator's point of view. I don't think that airspace restrictions is necessary at all now. The guards will still be up, and videographers may well have got a derogation from that as well, so that you may well still see the same air traffic that you saw in the past.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It is 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update. It's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Well, a temporary restricted airspace notice has been implemented for the Donegal Rally. The notice prohibits the use of helicopters and drones across various stages from today until Sunday. The no-fly and no-drone zones include Mamore Gap, Cool Cross, Carndonagh, Malin Head, Lougheal, Hyde Glen, Garrygort, Letterkenny, Knockalla, Atlantic Drive, Fanet Head and Carnhill. Links to the maps and more details on our website, highlandradio.com. The North's Infrastructure Minister Liz Kimmins has given the green light to the next phase of improvement works on the A32 between Omagh and Enniskillen. It comes as her department publishes its updated list of priority projects for the next 10 years. They include the A5 dual carriageway, further improvements on the A6 Derry-Belfast Road, a major riverside project in Derry and a new foot and cycle bridge in Strabane. Leo Varadkar says he would forego 2 years of economic growth for the unification of Ireland. The former Taoiseach made the comments during an interview with the BBC Northern Ireland Red Lines podcast. Last year, a report by the Institute of International and European Affairs found unification would cost €20 billion every 20 years. Well, Leo Varadkar says any short-term impact on the economy would be worth it in the long run. UK, French and German foreign ministers are holding talks with their Iranian counterpart in Geneva today as part of efforts to ease the Israel-Iran conflict. Last night, the White House said Donald Trump will decide in the next 2 weeks whether or not the US will join Israeli strikes on Tehran. The exchange of fire continued overnight, with Israel saying it hit military sites and Iranian missiles, injuring 6 in Israel. And a number of sites and apps have been affected, including logins belonging to Google, Facebook and Apple, after almost 16 billion passwords were leaked onto the dark net. It happened this week. People are being urged to be cautious and be aware of the potential risk of scams as a result. And we're back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Thanks, Donald.
Keep pace with the leaders on day one of the Donegal International Rally, live on Highland Radio, in association with Pulse Venue Letterkenny, where tonight, Friday, it's Johnny Brady and One for the Road. Pay at the door.
All right, let's get an update over to our head of sport, Oisín Kelly. What's the story, Oisín?
Yeah, well, we're still waiting on the first update, Greg, as from the competitors, because they're not due on the opening stage. Malin Head for another, 3 or 4 minutes. What time's it now? Yeah, it's 11:02, actually 5 minutes time. The first car due is at 11:07, and that, of course, will be the defending champions of Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan. The Derry and Kerry partnership are, of course, trying to win this event for 3 years in a row. Tell you what, Greg, the weather is tremendous here this morning in Inishowen. I'm just at the end of the Malin Head stage, down in the heart of Inishowen. And it's starting to heat up, and the sun is shining beautifully here in the Inishowen Peninsula this morning, and it's certainly teeing things up for what we hope will be a hugely successful and, of course, safe weekend here in Donegal this weekend.
What's the crowds like, Oisín?
Coming down through, Greg, there was, yes, a lot of traffic on the roads, but it was moving. You will get to your destination, and I suppose the best advice we can give to people who are coming out to this event today is basically get there early. Get onto the stage early. Get your spot early. Stay in there for a lengthy period of time, because you really don't have the opportunity to jump from stage to stage to stage. So the best idea is get in early, pick your spot, stay there for a few hours, watch the action, and then maybe in the afternoon, later in the afternoon for the next loop, you can move maybe to a different location. But yes, there was a lot of traffic on the way down to Inishowen. We had the ceremonial start last night, Greg, on the Port Road in Letterkenny. There was huge crowds out for that. The Port Road on the main street was absolutely packed with people and packed with rally cars, and that's been the start now to the event for the last couple of years, and it seems to be working very, very well. And there was lots of people out enjoying the good weather yesterday evening for that ceremonial start, and there was a wonderful atmosphere, so there was, as it's building towards the start of this event. And listen, in the nitty-gritty, when we get down to it, when we look at what's coming here now in the next 20 minutes or so, the calibre of drivers, the quality of the cars that they are driving, that they are competing in this weekend. We mentioned Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan. There is obviously the likes of John Armstrong and Shane Byrne. John competing for the first time. He's a knee regular, a European Rally Championship regular competitor. He picked up a podium last week. He's followed by the British Rally leader, that's the championship leader, William Crichton, and Liam Regan competing in a first time in a top-level car here in Donegal. They will be third in the road. And then the man that's travelled the furthest for this event, Hayden Padden from New Zealand, is alongside David Moynihan, and he jumped at the chance to compete in Donegal. And if you don't know your motorsport, Hayden Padden is a double European champion from the last number of years. He's also won on the world stage as well. And that's the top four crews. And then after that, listen, Josh Moffat's won it before. Marion Evans second last year. Declan Boyle's a former champion. David Kelly got a podium last year. Cahan McCourt's in the new Skoda. Michael Boyle, James Ford, Kevin Eves. The list goes on. And there is, of course, over 200 crews who will be competing in this event. The main field obviously starts today. We've also to come this weekend. The historics are going to swing into action tomorrow, which has become a very popular side of the event. And then the juniors will be adding their worth as well on Sunday in the final.
So actually, what's the priority today with stage one? Is it for drivers to get the car home and actually sort of get a feel of it in full-on competitive action? Or do the braver ones try and build up something of a lead? From chatting to the drivers and the crews, what generally is the attitude on the first stage in an event of this scale?
Well, that would be the case for the majority of the crews. And listen, they will tell you that they just want to get the feel of the car. They want to bed the car in. This is a marathon event. It's the one and only 3-day rally in the country. There's not too many of 3-day events left outside of the world and the European stage. Donegal is one of those, and it's seen as a marathon. And people just like to get the feel of the car, the feel of the event, the feel of the stages in the opening stage, the opening loop, maybe the first the three stages. But then you've got the seasoned competitors who have been here before. We wait to see what Callum Devine does, because he's won here twice in the last 2 years, looking to make it 3 in a row. Is Callum just going to bet himself in, or is he going to think to himself, right, hang on a minute here, I'm the champion, I've got a couple of these ERC boys behind me, and John Armstrong and William Creighton, Hayden Padden, along with the British leader at the minute, William Creighton, who are all extremely talented drivers. Does Devine think to himself, going, right, you're in my backyard here now, maybe I'm going to lay down a marker here, and just to let you boys know that I'm not going to give up my title? Or is the rest of them going to say to themselves, well, listen, they'll flip that around, let's chase down Callum Devine, let's make our marker on the opening loop here and let everybody know that we're here in Donegal to win this weekend. But that's what's going on at the head of the field. Further on down, there will be the likes of the clubmen and all the different class competitors who will use Malin Head's a big stage, Greg. It's a classic, so it is. The scenery is unbelievable. Now, the drivers don't get to see much of the scenery. The fans do.
It goes very quickly.
It goes very quickly, and it's the quality of the stage and the roads, and it's just an iconic Donegal stage, and it's such a big one to start with. Unless when you get into the car and the adrenaline starts, it's very, very hard to hold yourself back and try and bed yourself in. That's the other side of it, so it is. But we wait to see what stage one is going to bring, and who's going to be the quickest, and who will be the man to go put the hand up and go, right, I want to win this title this year.
So you're in Mallinhead now. That's stage one. So could you give us the stages for? Could you give us the stages for today?
Yeah. So after Malin, they are going to another famous area of Donegal, which is more so notable for cycling at times because it's been part of different challenges and races. That's Mamore Gap. So the stick rally cars up at Greg, so they go up and down the gap, and that's going to be stage 2. And then they're nipping across then to Cool Cross, which is basically between Clonmany. If you took the triangle Clonmany, Dumfries and Carndonagh, Cool Cross is stuck in the middle of there. So that's going to be stage 3. And they're due on Mamore Gap just after 12. They're due in Cool Cross at 1 o'clock. And then the first main service of the day is going to be 1:30. The cars at the moment are leaving service and making their way out to the start of the Mallinhead stage, and they go right up to the very tip of Malin and come down then, and they finish here. We're in the general area of, I'm just looking at my map here, just above the lag. So we are in Mallinhead, at the bottom of Mallinhead. So that's what's happening today. Malin, Mamore and Cool Cross, they will be done twice. And then the cars are expected back in Park Fermi and Letterkenny at around 10 to 7. Now, just to tee everybody up as well, Greg, we expect big traffic delays later on going into Letterkenny. It was a bit crazy last year, so it was. It's going to be likewise this year as well. Well, they're leaving. I'm just looking at my sheet in front of me. They're due back in service for the final time today at 16:47, which is near enough 10 to 5. They will leave there and then work their way back to Letterkenny for round about 10 to 7 coming into Park Fermi. But there, as we heard yesterday from the guys that joined you, Greg, to do the preview of this event, there is certain road closures to help the likes of the traffic and the emergency services and the rally organisation and the competitors get back to Letterkenny. They turn off at the dual carriageway and working their way up through the Cullion Road and back down sort of that area. So that does assist, I suppose, certain people who are involved in the rally, competing in the rally, and obviously the emergency services. But as for the general public, do expect delays coming into Letterkenny this evening.
And what's the coverage? Tell us the format of your and Chris's coverage today and through the weekend. Like, when do you? I mean, we want people listening all the time, of course, right? But when are you coming in and out? Is it dependent on when stages finish it, or if there's a big piece of news, or when can we keep updated with what's happening over the course of the next 3 days?
Yeah, well, I'm at the end of Malin, and the first car was due on the stage at 11:07, so the course cars, the double O's, are not too far away from us at the moment, and then we'll have the main field working our way there. So I'll be back to you shortly, Greg, with an update from the end of Malin. After that, we'll be keeping an eye on Mamore Gap, which starts after 12 o'clock, so we'll be keeping an eye what's happening at the end there. Now, coverage-wise, down at the end of Mamore Gap is not fantastic, so we just have to play it by ear there, but we will have an update after 2. And then Chris will be there. I'll be leaving here and then going to the end of Cool Cross, while Chris will be in service doing interviews. So we're going to have loads of coverage on air for you with rally reports, and then we'll have material as well and pieces of copy which that will be going up on our website and on our social channels from the service area as well. But there's so many. You have to remember there's over 150 crews starting this rally, Greg, 160 something it is. So they are starting today, so everybody is starting their race today. But as the weekend goes on, we know that what happens is some drivers go out, some crews go out. There's jostling for places. We have a better idea on the Saturday about who the leaders are and at what place they are. So, like, we could have somebody that's starting maybe 20th on the road today. Like, if we look down through the list, Ryan Loughlin, for example, could have a really, really good time in this Mallinhead stage, and he's running, where is he, 28th on the road, and he could have a top 3 time. So you're waiting that long just for times to come through, and then you get the modifieds as well. So there's a lot to consider now, and this opening day of the rally is all these crews jostle. I'll say it again. Jostle for position. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, listen, we'll be back to you before 12 to get an update. We'll get some actual sort of senses of I suppose, a benchmark time, and then it works on from there. Exciting stuff. Thanks,
all right, good on you, Greg. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Back after the break.
Highlands coverage on day 1 of the Donegal International Rally comes to you in association with Voodoo venue Letterkenny. Playing live tonight, it's My Generation.
Highland Bakery brings the magic to your morning tea break. Golden scones, still warm, soft in the middle and impossible to resist. Look for the packet with the rabbit on it. Fresh from the oven to your local shop. 25 years of Highland Bakery.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up? Fresh colour for your walls? Or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
The Irish Government is now covering the cost of HRT products and dispensing fees for all stages of menopause. There is no age-based eligibility for this, but you must have a prescription and be registered with the HSE Drugs Payment Scheme. For more information, see gov.ie/HRT or talk to your GP. A message from the Government of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply. GP visit cost not included. Available at participating pharmacies.
Print Supplies and Frosses delivers managed print solutions that save you time and money. With remote servicing and local support, we take the hassle out of printers and photocopiers. Stay efficient, stay supplied. Email sales@printsupplies.ie today. Print smart, save money, trust local.
For the biggest names in perfumes and aftershaves, visit McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Dior, Armani and Hugo Boss, Victor and Rolf, Marc Jacobs and Lancôme. Also Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, Prada and many more. From timeless classics to celebrity favourites, there's a perfume or aftershave for everyone at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie.
Who the hell are you? Get ready, Donegal. Highland Radio is throwing a party like no other. It's the Big Highland Summer Bingo Party, hosted with me, Keith Fletcher.
And me, Lee Gooch, Hawaiian shirts, hulas, how the hula are ya? Big laughs and even bigger cash prizes. With €1,000 up for grabs, expect big party tunes, madness and just a little bit of mayhem.
So, Saturday the 2nd of August at Jackson's Hotel, Ballybofey.
You better get your tickets quick on eventbrite.com.
Hey, what? Is it over 18s?
You better mention it's over 18.
Okay. And it's over 18s.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Maybe you're walking home with a guy you really like after a night in the college bar. Or maybe you and another fella are heading back to his in a taxi after meeting in a club. Or perhaps you've gone home with someone after a really great fourth date. There are lots of times and places where we need to say what we want and what we don't want. Whatever the moment, have the consent conversation.
A message from Cuan, a Government of Ireland agency.
Now, we all know that life can get a little, well, cluttered, both literally and figuratively speaking. Our homes, our workspaces, even our minds can sometimes feel overwhelmed by stuff, and it's potentially all interconnected. And that's why I'm delighted to welcome onto the show KonMari consultant and declutter expert Aidan Gately. Good morning, Aidan.
Morning, Greg. How you doing?
Good. Have you always had a flair for seeing what we don't need and what we do need?
Maybe, yeah. I maybe didn't realize it until I kind of started this career. But as I look back, yeah, I kind of think even as a teenager and stuff, I was always quite tidy. But I also kind of felt if my bedroom was kind of in a mess, I kind of felt like my headspace was in a mess, you know? And I don't know which came first, the messy bedroom and then your mind kind of being affected or vice versa. So yeah, I've always kind of, I think, noticed and felt the value of living in a stress-free, clutter-free space and home.
And Aidan will take your questions, by the way, 08660 25,000 if you have a question for him. I suppose in the basics, like for me, I do like to declutter, but I'm kind of at the point now whereby I would feel guilty about throwing out some of the stuff that I have. You know, is there a rule of thumb with the wardrobes or the sock drawer or the knicker drawer, whatever it might be, Aidan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that guilt is very real, you know? So I suppose to first normalize that, pardon me, and you know, it's normal but you also, yeah, allow yourself to let it go. When with the KonMari method, we talk about when we're gratefully discarding something. So we try and change our language rather than kind of get rid of something, which sounds kind of negative. So even as you're, and it sounds maybe silly, but even as you're putting the clothes into the drawer, or sorry, into the bag to donate or even for recycling, just kind of thank it, you know, in your head or out loud. Sorry if you can hear the dog drinking water in the
Don't worry
background.
about that.
So yeah, just kind of thank it for what it gave you, even if it's something that you never wore, that somebody gave you as a present, but it didn't fit you, you didn't like it, but you kept it out of a sense of guilt because Auntie Mary bought it for you, whatever it is. You know, you kind of have to realize that at some stage, you know, I don't need this thing in my life. It's taking up space in my wardrobe. I'm not wearing it. It doesn't spark joy for me. So let me donate it. Somebody else would get good wear out of it. It's going to charity. It'll make money for a really good charity. And yeah, that kind of helps with that guilt.
Yeah, because I find myself sort of going, well, I'll keep that T-shirt in case I'm painting or strimming, and I'll keep those jeans in case I'm painting or strimming. And it turns out that I've got more of my work clothes that I actually never use than, you know, my everyday clothes. So I need to overcome that.
Yeah, but keep some stuff. Yeah,
of course,
I have a shirt for painting, or you know, boots for just cutting the grass in. You know, but just one kind of each. You don't need. Yeah, if you start keeping too much, you're never going to use them all.
Are we always honest with ourselves as to why we keep stuff? Like, are there like sights and smells and sounds, either consciously or perhaps maybe more subconsciously for the purpose of this question? Do we attribute an emotion to our clothes? Maybe it's that blouse that you wore on the first date with an ex, or whatever it might be, right? Do we do that a lot? Do we hoard
yeah,
like
I think
that?
we do that nearly with everything that comes into our lives, or we have it. We can do that, especially with clothes, because they're so personal and you wear them. But like, you know, I have a knife that reminds me of my uncle. You know, so it can be anything, and one person's clutter is somebody else's treasure, and that's why when I declutter with people, I never put something into the recycling or donate box without asking them about it first, because what looks like crap or rubbish to me is the most sentimental thing for them. So there's so much, and as you say, sight and smells, you know, even just the smell of a scarf or that perfume, you know, if you're walking down the street and you smell somebody's perfume, you're like, oh, that reminds me of an ex or my mom or my aunt or whatever. So it is such an emotional process of, that's why people, I think, find it hard and procrastinate about doing it and feeling overwhelmed, because if it was easy, we'd do it much more readily and easier, you know. But it is there, we have a tendency to link emotions with people, and especially if it's people who are no longer in our lives or who have passed away, there is a worry that if I get rid of every photograph or every memory of, say, Joan, you know, that will somehow remove Joan's memory from my conscious mind or unconscious, you know. And that's when I kind of help people to realize, like, you know, absolutely keep some mementos that remind you of Joan, but maybe you don't need all her records or all the scarves she ever knit you. You know, maybe you keep the three favorite ones, and maybe they're too itchy to wear, but you hang them where you can see them. They remind you of Joan, but you let go of the rest of the things and know that those memories, they're not in the items, they're in your heart and in your head. You
I
know?
think
And
maybe too sometimes maybe you're not processing things as much as you can if you think surrounding yourself with physical items is the connection. I think maybe there's a process of bereavement or coming to terms with
grief or
grief, exactly, that maybe you haven't actually
yeah, no,
worked on.
you've really jumped right into the nugget of it. Yeah, because the studies and people will say that actually clutter is kind of keeping you, it's either dragging you to the past or it's a fear of the future, you know? And especially with clothes, if it's, you know, you're keeping the skinny jeans because you think you're going to lose weight and become the person you were before, or you're afraid you'll put on more weight, so you're keeping your fat clothes for the future, you know. Both of those things kind of trap you. They stop you from living in the present, you know. And there's so much processing that we don't do, and we think if we keep the stuff, it keeps us safe, but actually it starts to become kind of a prison, you know. So it's a very psychological process of going through your items and curating what you really actually need and want in your life.
What I find myself doing is just a clean out every now and again. I'll work up the courage and do it, but doesn't really align with the KonMari method. So that accepts, does it, that there's a psychological element to this, that you're working on yourself as well as your wardrobe, in inverted commas. The method is which I see as really valuable. So talk me through that and where one might start then if they want to declutter their mind and their cupboard and drawers at the same time.
Exactly, yeah, the full tidying festival, as Marie Kondo calls it. So yeah, the reason we kind of rebound is because we don't do it fully, or we tidy by location. So we just do the wardrobe or the car or the messy drawer or the attic, whatever. But what the KonMari method does, it simplifies it and makes it slightly less overwhelming by doing it by category. So it's very simple and very strict. We do clothes first. So that's every single piece of clothing that you own in the house or in the car. You bring it all together, even the clothes, the stuff for doing the grass.
What's the rules, though? Because, Aidan, I will find myself item by item making a very reasonable reason as to keep it, even if I haven't worn it for quite some time. So can you help us with sort of like a rule or parameters that will break that? Because we could just end up dragging everything to one side of the cupboard. Look, I've got more space, but I've chucked nothing out, Aidan.
Yeah, so you have to take everything out, Greg. So if I was in your house and we were doing clothes, we would literally get every single piece of clothing that you own and we pile it up on your bed or the spare bed. And then we have 3 boxes, keep, donation, recycle right beside. And as you pick up every single item, we're deciding if you want it in your life or not. But before that, I also I give you permission to keep everything. People never do, but you need to allow yourself to keep everything if you need to. Also, you need to change your frame of mind. When you're looking at that pile of clothes on the bed, don't think, oh God, I have to get rid of all of this or half of this. You don't. What you have to do is go through it and find the things you want and you love and you need to wear for work or whatever. That's your job, is actually to find the things you want, put them in the keep pile. Then everything else that's left on the bed at the end of that is stuff that you don't need, that you don't want, that doesn't fit, that is torn or ripped. And then that goes for recycling and donation.
And that means it's never wasted. Do you find then in that process that to get an item into each box takes a bit of time, but once you've done that, your client then all of a sudden they know exactly which box is for which, because you've broken it's like a wild horse, isn't it? You've broken them. They know this, they know what's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that process, it depends on how much. Everybody always asks me, how long is this going to take? How much is it going to cost us?
All right, we've dropped out.
5 hour session.
Okay, go ahead. Yep. Sorry, we had a slight blip there. Continue, Aidan.
You're grand. No worries. Yeah, I would usually do a 5 hour session with somebody, and depending on the person, sometimes you will get through every single piece of clothing in 5 hours and restore it. Sometimes it might take 3 5 hour sessions, depending on what they have. But it also depends on the amount of items they have, and also how quickly it is to go through them. And my job isn't really to do it the fastest. My job is to work with the client, and if they need to tell a story about every single piece of clothing, that is part of the process, and that will help them let go of what they don't need.
Are shoes problematic?
They can be, yeah. Some people, it's funny, like some people could have jackets. They could have loads and loads of jackets, 23 coats.
Yeah, that's my thing.
But some people could have loads of shoes. Women might have loads of dresses. Clothes isn't their thing, but paper is their thing. Or somebody could have 300 books, and the next person I go to just has 3 books. I've literally had somebody who's like, the book I'm reading now, the one I just finished, and the one I'm about to start. But the next person could have a room of books and boxes and boxes. So everybody is different, but the principle is the same. Again, with shoes or books, we bring them all together and go through them one by one and decide if I love it, if I need it, if I wear it, if I use it.
I don't think I could afford you and my wires drawer, Aidan.
Because wires.
If we're, you never know. I might buy a Nokia 9010 and need a charger for it. You know what I mean? So get out of my drawer. And my red and white cables to a jack. That's in the kimono category. So that's after clothes, books and paper is miscellaneous, and in that is electrical, and it's those wires. If you don't know now, obviously in your industry you will know what a jack is and a female HDMI or whatever. Yeah.
Most people, when they pick up something. If you don't know what it is
Bin.
supposed to charge, if you don't know the lock that this key goes into, you don't need it. And
Right.
yeah, if you decide to get a 9210 Nokia in 10 years' time, it'll probably come with a free charger.
Aidan's so right. We have a home here and it's packed with bits and pieces, yet we have a holiday home abroad and all we have are the essentials and it actually feels lighter and brighter.
That's funny. I was just literally talking to somebody about it this morning, and I use that analogy. You know, when we go on holidays or go to a hotel, we only bring the bare minimum. So for that person, they just need to kind of try and treat their current home as their holiday home. Do you know, almost like think, well, if I was only coming to this for a weekend or a few weeks or a month, what would I keep in it? Because we do it automatically when we go on holidays. We just bring the things we love and need. And then we can relax. That person is exactly right. When they go to their holiday home, there's a lot less stuff in it. It's only the essentials. It's what they love. They've probably put into the holiday home the things they really love, and then they can relax more in that space. And what the KonMari method is, and what I try to help with people, is get that feeling, the feeling that that person has in the holiday home. In an ideal world, they should feel that in their everyday home. You know, when the world and life is stressful enough, when we close our front door, I want people to feel, you know, that they can breathe out and their home is a sanctuary and a safe place. Whereas so many people I speak to, actually, when they open their front door, they get stressed, or they actually stay in the car a little bit longer than they need to because they don't want to go in and face what's there.
Yeah, McCall says sentimental items are the hardest to let go of. How can someone honour some memories without keeping every single physical memento? Now, I'm blessed in that my relationship and memories with, say, for instance, my mum and dad and my sister and other people in my life, they're in my head and heart. That's where I feel them. Then you get people who store messages and they'll go through the messages at night, and then they keep every physical thing. And you've already referenced this, that in some way, if they get rid of one thing, they think they're doing something wrong. There's something, there's a bigger picture there, isn't there, Aidan?
Yeah. No, there is. And sentimental items are the hardest. And that's why in the KonMari method, especially, they are the last things you come to. And what's sentimental for you and what for me, it could be a chair for somebody, a magnet, a photograph, obviously. So sentimental items we do at the very end because they are the hardest. By the time you get to them, because you've gone through every single other piece of clothing or possession in your house, it will be easier to go through them.
Okay, I get
you will have got better at trusting your gut. You'll have got better at letting go. And then you will maybe look at a pile of things that remind you of people and be like, okay, maybe I don't need as many things to remember this person, you know? And without being too kind of dramatic or maudling or something about it, it's also, you know, if people have heard of the Swedish act of death cleaning, you know, it's, you know, we all will go into that box or whatever at the end of our lives, and we can't bring those things with us. In the end, it will be the memory. Actually kind of tackle them now, it can make living much more enjoyable because you're not stuck.
Acola says, I have young children and work and struggle to find the time to fully declutter and organise the house. How should I do it? Now, they're clearly making this to be a massive job and you'll never get round to that, right? But I think decluttering is actually doing a bit of something for yourself. And you can talk now to the method that this person's taking it on as an entire project. Where would you even begin with that? Well, that's where the method comes in.
Yeah, so it depends. You know, if that person has the luxury of time and you know, wants to get me or somebody like me to come up for 3 days in a row, it's amazing how much you can get through in like 3-5 hour sessions. If they don't have that, a lot of people don't have that, then it's breaking it down into just manageable chunks. And, you know, that might mean I don't have the time to put all my clothes on the bed, but maybe tonight I'll just pull out all my jumpers, just your jumpers, just pile them on the bed and go through them and decide which ones you want to keep and not. You know, slowly kind of do it like that. Another really good thing to do is just put an empty box or bag near your front door. And as you're walking around your house today or tomorrow, just look at things. If you see a book, a present that somebody gave you, you've never opened a candle, whatever it is, a scarf, you're like, I never wear that, it's too itchy, put it in that box. And when that box is full, just bring it to donation. Eventually you'll get there. It will take longer. And I suppose the KonMari method is all about trying to do it once and for all so you don't have to keep doing it, you know, because if you kind of do it little by little, you kind of never fully get there, you know. So if you can do it in one go, it's ideal, but it is possible in smaller sections.
And I think also too, even just the way you and maybe this is not even something you emphasize, but it's the thing that resonated to me is the recycle or donate piles, because then it doesn't feel like waste. So instantly it doesn't feel like waste, and I don't feel guilty because something good is coming of both of those piles. Just one last question. Do you know the drawer? You know, it used to be plastic bags, and then now it's every blooming thing, right? We all have that one drawer that as soon as you open it, everything pops out like a jack-in-a-box. How do we stop putting stuff into it?
So clutter is basically homeless items. So that drawer is full of things that don't have a home. So take it out now, put it up on your kitchen table, and get your bin. Get 3 plastic bags of keep, donate, and recycle, and it's literally going through it. I did this last week actually at the workshop in Donegal, and somebody brought that messy drawer, and we ended up keeping the things you needed in it and get rid of. So we kept the sellotape, we kept the sandwich bags, we kept the ice cubes for the freezer, and they went back into that drawer because that's their home. But we got rid of all the other things that weren't needed. So it's about, because that drawer gets full of, used batteries, new batteries, light bulbs, or whatever. It's about finding a place for them. So go through the drawer, get rid of everything that you don't need, and then try and give the other things a home. And even if it's just a home in that drawer, what you'll find is people think they need more storage or blah, 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 blah. If you just go through every drawer and get rid of what you don't need, all of a sudden what you keep fits in it more, and you can find it.
Yeah. And you know what goes in that drawer too is a phone charge cable that does work, but it just doesn't quite charge the phone as quick as a new one does. And next thing you know, you don't know which cable's which. Listen, Aidan, lovely to chat to you. I'll let people know how they can get in touch with you. Thanks so very much indeed. Take care. That was Aidan Gately, KonMari consultant and declutter expert. If you wanted to have him up at your house for 5 hours at a time, why not? Just search Aidan Gately.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
This July 18th and 19th, Gweedore comes alive with Salt Music Festival 2025. On Saturday 19th, experience The Stunning, the Sharon Shannon Big Band with Garen Noon, the Luke Combs Experience, and many more. For more information and tickets, go to saltfela.ie. Salt Music Festival 2025. 2 days, one place, great music.
Alarm bells on TAMS grants. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, as demand surges for TAMS funding, Minister Hayden warns farmers about future restrictions. CAP investigation uncovers €20 million fraud and bribery scams. We examine how global conflicts will impact fertiliser prices. Farmers win landmark Supreme Court case on ESB pylons and poles. Minister warns tractor driving tests could hit labour availability. Plus, rugby pundit and cattle dealer Bernard Jackman on scrums, marts and men's health. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
It's the 2025 World Chip Sizzle Freestyle Contest, and Charlie's Chips are in the lead again. They're coming up to the finishing pan, and Charlie's Chips are the 2025 World Champions. Sourced locally, hand-cut and freshly cooked, served with mouth-watering burgers, fresh battered fish, or delicious chicken, plus a great selection of gluten-free options. Open Tuesday to Saturday 12 to 8, and every Friday for breakfast from 9. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's on Pierce Road, Letterkenny.
Rally weekend at Voodoo Venue, Letterkenny, Donegal's premier entertainment destination, where tonight, playing live, it's my generation. Experience top-tier entertainment this rally weekend at Voodoo Venue, Letterkenny. Proud associate sponsor of the Donegal International Rally.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
It is 11:36.
Keep pace with the leaders on day one of the Donegal International Rally, live on Highland Radio, in association with Pulse Venue Letterkenny, where tonight, Friday, it's Johnny Brady and one for the road. Pay at the door.
Right, Oisín Kelly, have we anything to report?
Yeah, we do have something to report, Greg. We're here at the end of the Malin stage. The leading crews have just completed the 17.68 kilometres off the first run around this Donegal Classic in very dry conditions. We're told that the air temperature is around 20 degrees in there. The tire temperature is 28 degrees, and we've got joint leaders after the opening stage of this event. The defending champions Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan, and John Armstrong, who's doing this event alongside Donegal's Shane Byrne, have an identical time of 7 minutes 26.8 seconds coming through that Malin test. Devine, of course, in the Fabia that he won last year. Armstrong here in the M Sport supported Ford Fiesta Rally 2. But an equal time, Callum was happy enough with his run, his opening run for this rally, just bedding himself in. So was John. He called it an okay run. So he did coming off Malin, given that he hadn't had much testing done on the tarmac in the car, but both satisfied with their opening times. We're all keeping an eye on Hayden Padden and David Moynihan. Padden, of course, the two-time ERC champion, and is not too far off the pace, just 1.9 seconds adrift, almost 2 seconds slower. 7:28.7 was the time there for Hayden Padden, who said coming off the stage that it was tricky, very bumpy in there in Malin, and he's just finding his feet, of course, with his Hyundai i20 here in Donegal. David Kelly, who finished third last year with Arthur Cairns on board in their Volkswagen Polo, they had the fourth fastest time of 7:29 dead, and just 0.3 of a second behind them was the first of the Yaris cars, Marion Evans and Jared Conway. They finished runners-up last year. They wrap up the top five. Outside of that, Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes, they had the sixth quickest time, 7:33. Josh saying as he came off the stage that the tyres started to go off a bit towards the end. Then we have William Cretan and Liam Regan, 7th overall in the Yaris. 7:33.5 was the time there, 6.7 seconds slower than the leading duo, and William just wasn't happy with that opening stage. He says he's got a bit of work to do. It's very bumpy in there in Malin, and he's going to try and reset now for the next stage. So the rest of the top 10 unofficially is Declan Boyle and Patrick Walsh in the Skoda 8th. Michael Boyle and Dermot McCafferty are in 9th. They were separated by just 1.7 seconds in there in Malin, and James Ford and Neil Shanks, the Crosswater visitors in the Citroen C3, are wrapping up the top 10 at the moment, with the likes of Kevin Eves sitting in 12th, Joseph McGonigle's 14th, Aidan Ray 15th, Matthew Boyle 16th, Ryan McHugh in 17th, and we're still waiting on the modified times in the cruise to come our way here at the end of the stage. But I can tell you, Cahan McCourt has lost a lot of time in there due to a puncture. It's his first run out in the Skoda Fabia R5, and his time was 11:58. So he's lost a lot of time, 4.5 minutes down on the leaders, who after stage one are Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan in the Skoda, the defending champions. And John Armstrong and Shane Byrne, they are sitting equal on 7 minutes 26.8 as they head to stage 2, Greg, which is Mamore Gap, and they're due on stage there at about 12:10. And we'll be back with another update real soon from the Wilton Recycling Donegal International Rally, which is revelling already in the sun after just one stage for the leaders.
Thank you very much, Josh. Cole McMeehan joins me after these.
Highlands coverage on day one of the Donegal International Rally comes to you in association with Voodoo venue Letterkenny. Playing live tonight, it's My Generation.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
The 252 Kia offers are heating up at iMotors, and they're electrifying. Drive away with 0% finance on all Kia EVs. And there's more. Get a free home charger and a €500 super value gift card when you order by June 30th. Smarter, cleaner, better value. Drive into summer today. Visit iMotors in Letterkenny or Malin.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Finance is provided by Bank of Ireland and is subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Failure to meet repayments may affect your credit rating.
I have fallen for another.
Summer Sessions is back. Get ready for an unforgettable week of live music in Letterkenny under the massive Big Top tent, featuring Picture This, The Saw Doctors, The Human League, Nick Kershaw, The Undertones, and many more. It's all happening August the 15th to the 24th at the biggest festival in the Northwest. Grab your tickets now at summer-sessions.ie. Follow Summer Sessions Letterkenny on social media. You won't want to miss a beat.
It's Sofa Week at Easy Living Furniture. Everything's reduced in-store and online, with hundreds of sofa specials and free delivery on all sofa orders over $499. Hurry! Sofa Weekends this Sunday, only at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, London, Derry.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture, luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
If you have a special occasion coming up, Watson Menswear stock a great selection of men's and boys' formal and casual wear. Top casual brands include Mishmash, French Connection, Tommy Bow and Penguin. Formal wear names include Rimozumo, Sixth Sense and White Label, with a special suit deal of a 3-piece suit, shirt, tie and shoes, all for only €299. Watson Menswear, open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
All roads lead to Warehouse Bar and Kitchen, Main Street, Letterkenny this rally weekend. Food and drinks served all day. Late night opening with live music and DJs all weekend. Wishing all the competitors good luck from all at Warehouse Bar and Kitchen.
Cormac Meehan, owner of Meehan Travel World Choice, and Sean Meehan, Chartered Valuation Surveyors in Bundorans, with me in studio as we reflect on your retirement. You're going to retire in August. Cormac, what a career.
Good morning, Greg. It's nice to be here. Yes, I've enjoyed a very fruitful and promising career over a period of almost 40 years. So I felt it's time to move along to perhaps the next chapter. I've enjoyed every moment of my time in business as self-employed individual, but it's I think it's time to move on. There's about so much that you can give, and I think I've given enough at this stage.
But time for a bit for yourself, indeed. You took over the business in 86, 87 after your father, who started the business in 1950, passed away. Was the pressure at that point to step into his big shoes, I suppose? There was
To a degree, Greg, but I was working at the time in what was the RTC in Letterkenny, now the ATU, and I was lecturing there for a period of 2 years. So his death happened quite suddenly. He was 60 at the time, so he didn't have the opportunity to retire. But myself and my bride-to-be at the time decided that it was a good move to go back and to make the most of the business and try to grow it over a period. And we did, and we never looked back after that.
And what was the marriage of travel and auctioneering?
It's an interesting story, Greg. It started in the 50s, and what happened was that my dad was an estate agent at the time, and he was selling farms. There was a lot of emigration after the war in South Donegal and all places. Mm-hmm. So he was asked to sell properties for people that were emigrating to the US or to the UK. And what happened then was people didn't know where they could source a boat ticket or a plane ticket at that time. There was one shipping agent in Sligo, and my dad used to drive to Sligo to buy the tickets from the shipping agent for the people he was selling the properties for. And he'd get paid for the tickets when the property was sold. So that was the nexus of it. And the man in Sligo said to him one day, Sean, why don't you go ahead and open your own agency, because you're doing nearly more business than I am at this stage. So that was the start of it, Greg. It's a good story.
Yeah, indeed. And that's really the most basic early part of sort of being a travel agent, isn't it? Driving to Sligo physically.
They call it vertical integration in business.
Yes, they do now in any case. And of course, you know, you've been involved in your business, but also in helping steer and represent the business through your presidency of the Irish Travel Agents Association. And also, you were president as well of the Irish Auctioneers and Valuers Institute, were you?
Yeah, I always got involved in the organisations that controlled our businesses, simply because I felt that the needs of rural practitioners in many instances were not being represented at a national level. So I felt my moral compass was pointing in that direction, and I enjoyed networking with co-professionals both in the travel sector and in the property sector, and indeed it was very beneficial in being able to grow my business because I had a network of contacts right around the country and even in certain parts of the world. So it was a very beneficial time, and I had a very good staff of 3 in the office, so they were well able to manage and cope in my absence and were exceptionally supportive, together with my wife, of my efforts to get involved in the organisational side of the business.
If you think of how your dad started, you know, he was answering a question or solving a problem. You know, I want to go somewhere, and where do I even begin to do that? Nowadays, you can source your own flights. You can go to booking.com and organise accommodation and all that. So you would think, well, who needs travel agents anymore? You know, we know everything. But that's hasn't proven to be the case. It wasn't the death knell, because there's so many pitholes and potential problems there that many people still want to go and get trusted advice and the supports and the backstops of a travel agent.
There have been events in the world economy over the last 40 years, ranging from tsunamis in Southeast Asia, the 9/11 incidents, COVID more recently, and other various events right around the world. And people have understood, and they know that travel can be a very volatile product. Now, the situation that if people have to sit down from A to Z to plan and organise their trip, people have begun to put a premium on their time, particularly younger consumers. So they're quite happy to commission somebody to do that work for them. In addition to that, they feel that the adaptability of the arrangements they make with a high street travel agent gives them the opportunity to be flexible, and they can tailor make their stuff. It's a very much a people-centred business, and human contact is exceptionally important.
Yes, and it's a relationship based on trust. So if someone says this is good, if you've got a 3 and 4 year old, you don't feel that you potentially could be wasting your trip, as it turns out not to be the case. So I think people like that element of it as well. Is 9/11 and COVID have been the biggest fluxes in the business?
Certainly COVID was, because we were effectively closed, as were most agents, for a period of almost 2 years.
And we never knew how things were going to come back.
We never knew how things were going to come back. No, there was no manual written about how to cope with something like this.
Sure.
But I think the important point was that the vast majority of us managed to keep our teams together. We dealt with the public in terms of getting them the refunds from the airlines that they had booked with. And that built another layer of trust in terms of the retail business. And it has done the world of good for many of us in terms of how we balance our lives and our businesses.
And as it turned out, those who had the resources could not wait to get travelling again. And we saw things bounce back far quicker than the experts, in inverted commas, had told us. Things have changed greatly in terms of social media, how you interact with people, how people spend their money and all this kind of stuff. But is it the fundamentals that have stayed the same? So in other words, the core element of the business from when you began, is that the same now, and it's the stuff around it that has changed dramatically?
The core element of both businesses has been people and relationships, and the capacity to maintain and keep those active and alive. Every day in both the travel and the property business is different. Every client's needs are different. And you have to develop a skill to understand those needs and be prepared to fulfill them. And if you can't, know how they can be fulfilled elsewhere. So you're essentially you're the last port of call for many people. So you have that core responsibility and expertise to help them in every way you possibly can.
Have we seen a period in the property market before that we've seen now in your decades of experience? In terms of maybe a shortage, the costs, the fact that there seems no end in sight. I think we could all feel that the ticking time bomb of property was very evident. I think just, as we approached the recession, we seem to be maintaining now, and we're still doing well. We've got more savings than we ever had. The amount we're borrowing is much less, right? So, but in terms of getting property, how much property is changing hands and all, is this unique where we're at the moment?
It's unique in the point of view that the supply has dropped completely. But when you think back to when I came in the late 80s, the big challenge then was interest rates. And interest
15,
rates for resident
16,
were up on 22 and 23%.
Right, okay.
So that was a challenge, and it meant that people were really pressed, and they were afraid of the market. The banks were quite aggressive in terms of repossessing properties, and the market was dropping drastically at the time. So it was a no-win situation for everybody. But there have been about 3 of those troughs during my career, and they all have been characterised by people's incapacity to manage their financial situations. And we still haven't really got to the point where we have developed models that will sustain people through that process. As some of your early guests said, the system is broken and we need to work hard at fixing it.
Yeah. I don't think you've ever really had spare time, have you? Between running 2 businesses, then seeking the presidency and successfully acquiring them of the 2 heads of the businesses, and then the work you do in terms of voluntary work, be either local or national. In other words, all of your time sounds like, right, it's always been accounted for. You will have more time now, or are you going to replace your busy workload now with other stuff? Like, what do you intend to do post-August?
Well, I've always enjoyed walking and running, and over the last 10 years I concentrated on getting myself fitter again and again. And one of the greatest joys I had was over a business year, I decided to have an ambition to run a 5K in every single European country. which I did over 12 months, and it culminated in November in Turkey, where I did a 5K on the European side of Istanbul and then on the Asian side. So I actually ran in the two continents
yes.
in one weekend. So I enjoy being active, and together we do an awful lot of walking. I'll enjoy to travel, and there's an aspect to my career that I do a certain amount of arbitration work for the High Court, and I'm retaining that for another few years because it's stimulating and I enjoy it. And I work with 4 other colleagues to resolve disputes around the country, and we're a good team, and they only call us if things are really bad. So it's a nice future, and I'm looking forward to it.
You know, your name's over the door, you're the face of the business, but to be successful for as long as you have been successful in both the property field and the travel field requires people having your back, people you can rely on, people that can step in when they need to. How important has the team been over the span of the last number of decades?
The team has solidly been Kathleen McDade, Fiona Feely and Caroline McNamara. And they're the 3 that have been with me the longest, a collective service of about 100 years, would you believe. But again, they work as a team. Over the years, I've never heard their voices raised or a crossword in the office. And it's the sort of office that where the phone rings...
Well, you never listen, do you?
But when the phone rings, the person nearest that answers it, there's no prima donnas.
Yeah.
And of course, my wife Maureen has been the backbone to everything that I've done over the years.
And what happens to the businesses now? Do they wind down with you, or are they continuing in one form or other?
Unfortunately, they're not. They're being wound down at the moment. And that's a situation that faces many people who are self-employed because... And particularly in service businesses, you don't have transferable or marketable assets.
Yeah, I get you.
But
you can't sell the shop.
Yeah, but by the same token, I think there's probably opportunities for people who want to expand their businesses in that area. And I have had approaches from people who are interested in that sort of an approach. But I'm drawing a line firmly under the retail side of my participation.
And how do you feel about it, lastly?
Well, the hardest decision we made was to make the decision to retire. And the day that Maureen and I decided, the next challenge was to talk to the staff.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a Tuesday evening, and I sent them on the group WhatsApp message. I said, come in at 9:30 tomorrow morning. I have a little thing I want to talk to you about. And I'm sure the 3 girls were bricking it overnight, wondering what was they going to talk to them about. But when I explained the rationale and what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, they were delighted, and they're all happy at the moment.
Well, Cormac, listen, the very best of luck to you. I'm sure we'll cross paths again in the media and otherwise. Really enjoy your retirement. Congratulations on a wonderful career in many areas, and also well done for all the efforts that you've put in a voluntary capacity, you know, the work that you do. But Cormac, thanks so much for chatting to us.
Thanks a million, Greg.
Cormac Meehan there, owner of Meehan Travel Word Choice and Sean Meehan Chartered Valuation Surveyors in Bundoran.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
At Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, the stars shine brighter. This isn't just a trip to the movies, it's a VIP experience. Sit back in luxury as your favourite pizza,
yummy,
hot food and a cold drink are delivered right to your seat in any studio. But for the ultimate treat, step into the Director's Lounge, our most popular destination. Enjoy the film, enjoy the food and savour the experience. Only at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane.
Hegarty's Home Interiors Buncrana, the biggest direct importer of sofas, beds, mattresses and flooring in the Northwest. Best in stock deals on selected sofas and corner sofas. Best in stock deals on gas lift beds. Best in stock on mattresses. Best in stock deals on laminate flooring, semi-solid flooring and carpets. Full fitting service on carpets and wood flooring. With a free delivery service throughout the Northwest, including all of Northern Ireland. Hegarty's Home Interiors Buncrana. Always lower prices.
Access to all-electric premium mobility is all yours with the Audi Q440 e-tron. Starting from €48,480, inclusive of the SEAI grant with complimentary metallic paint. Discover all the advantages to owning a new Audi Q440 e-tron this summer, with exclusive Audi All-Access offers and introductory incentives available. Terms and conditions apply. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 32575. Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenney's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Slap on the sunblock, warm and sunny with good spells of sunshine. Temperatures 25 to 29 degrees. And keeping you company through the afternoon, it's John Breslin around the northwest. We'll be back on Monday.